Looking for the best astrology guidance? You can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Serious Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for. Daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone 7 days a week. And that's just half of it. You'll also get access to our exclusive members-only site with tons of amazing features. Experience the most accurate astrology service on the web at SeriousJoy.com.
Hello and welcome to Namaste today. I'm happy to sing it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I am your host, Sensei Christopher Witecki, a psychic astrologer and a light worker for the world, here to help everyone stand in their power, come into their heart, and find out about the star that they really are. Welcome, my friends, to another exciting week here on planet Earth. We are broadcasting live on all of our social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, X.com, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I must also invite everyone to please let us know, where are you chatting from, and say hello in the chat. We're so grateful to have you here. Oh, hello, Happy Camper in the house. Woohoo! I know you, Happy Camper. Hello, Neptune girl. So nice to see you again. Hello, Daryl. Thank you for joining us, brother. So nice to see you. Hello, the Shots Method. I got to find out what that's about. Oh, thank you, Christina, on my hair compliment. Leo Rising is loving that. Hello, Faith in Hawaii. Aloha. So nice to see you. Alyssa in California. My soul sister, Kristen Roder, is here today. Experimental Elemental in the UK, which I like to say, and Jennifer in South Carolina. Hello, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here with you again. Thank you for your patience today. We did have a couple hiccups in the giddy up, as we are a modern company. We're always transforming. It's going to be a really good show tonight. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things going on right now. This week, we have our lives going through the final steps of transformation. That's the final degrees of Scorpio. We dip into the sun in Sagittarius just in time for our holiday season here in the United States, which means you are now changing the story you tell yourself. And we also have a fascinating transit, the sun squaring Saturn, which means the official story will begin. Also tonight on Astro Mingle, my special guest, best-selling author, intuitive channel, vibrational healer, and energy medicine teacher, Katie Sutton, will be joining us, telling us about her curriculum for enlightenment and going to higher dimensions, the 12th dimension to be precise. But before we dive into all that great content, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Saturday, November 18th to Friday, November 24th, 2023. Looking at your weekend moodcast, over the weekend you'll be channeling and talking to higher self to figure out whether or not you should jump. And then on Sunday, it's a commitment to transform your life. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and praying. Step 25 means that Neptune rules this day. With the moon in Aquarius, you're also feeling the vibrations of the other side. It's time really to pray in and ask God, universe, is this the right move for me? The sun conjuncts Mars, meaning you're ready to make that move. And Mercury squares Juno, which means it has to be in synergy. On Sunday, it's sunny and belonging. Step 26 means Saturn rules this day. You will have the backbone and the determination to commit to changing your life forever. You could say the drum is beating for freedom, and with the moon in Aquarius, you are feeling that call to innovation. Moving on to the week ahead with our 5-day zodiac mood forecast. The week ahead promises to wrap up the sun in Scorpio, which probably means you are kickstarting some sort of transformation of your life. Then, over Thanksgiving holiday, the sun moves into Sagittarius, which begs the question, what should I believe about myself? Let's take a look. On Monday, it's sunny and idealistic. Step 27 means Mars rules the day. You will have the gumption and the ego courage to execute the big changes in your life. As a result, the plot will thicken. The moon in Pisces means you're emotionally feeling that this is a karmic turnaround, and with the sun trining Pluto, it also indicates a major shift in your world power. On Tuesday, it's sunny and sensing. Step 28 means Earth rules this day, so you are holding love and sacred ground to manifest the changes you have begun in the last 24 hours. This will change the top of the pyramid. And with Mars now sextiling Pluto, that shift of power becomes real. On Wednesday, it's sunny and transforming. Step 29 means Chiron rules this day. You may be tested on boundaries everywhere and anything you learned in the Scorpio transit. Later that day, the Sun enters into Sagittarius and Venus opposes Chiron, which means you will be opening up to the fact that you are trying something you once failed at. On Thursday, it's sunny and excitable. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. This is you drawing a line between the old story you used to tell yourself and the new story you now believe in. You are closing down that old story, and with the Sun scoring Saturn, you can't help but relate it to the fact that your karma is changing. And then on Friday, it's sunny and activated. Step 1 means love rules the day, or you could say the Sun rules the day. You'll be theorizing about self-love on Black Friday and maybe feeling tested by the changes. And with Mars now entering into Sagittarius, you're ready to push forward that new narrative. If you haven't already, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you don't mind, please like this video so other astrology enthusiasts will be informed by the YouTube algorithm. Namaste Today Live is sponsored by SeriousJoy.com, a spiritual life coaching service based on your natal data in your chart. We actually 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we are always with you, sending messages directly to your phone or your email box that coach you based on your personal astrology. Right now, we're entering into the master chapter of the 40 Days of My Truth and Purpose, which, by the way, people have been talking about. This is an incredible program to understand your chart inside and out. And we are now entering the mastery stage, which will be on 0 degree Sagittarius, which is happening this Wednesday. We'll be teaching about all 12 houses, all aspects, all transits, and we'll be also introducing a proprietary purpose calculator and cipher. If you don't know what that means, you can find out for just $3.99. I'll have more details about what else is going on in our app after the show. Well, friends, we're at an interesting moment in human history. Let's take a look at the week's planets and transits. Well, we are at the end of a very powerful transformative season of the Sun in Scorpio. And for those who are just joining us here on the channel, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to be of soul service. Our family of light is growing every day, and we're coming into a greater expansion of truth. I've noticed just reading comments in our clubs and on our app that people are really, truly at this transformative moment. And really, it rolls back to March, actually, when Saturn entered into Pisces for the first time since 1993 to 1995. That was really the beginning of the end. And when I say the end, I mean the end of certain karma with yourself. We are all born with certain karma with ourselves. Karma, by the way, is past life memory that's sort of nagging at us. And this could be positive or negative karma. Positive karma, for instance, would be that you were once on top of the world. You in a past life were expressing your talents, but maybe you weren't fully appreciated. You wanted to go farther. Maybe you had ambition to change the world, but you could only do so much. Or maybe you have a talent that you love so much, you want to bring it back to the earth. Negative karma would be things that you are still held up over as far as triggers or lessons you weren't able to learn or tragedies that happen. And what ends up happening is over lifetimes, we begin to develop a certain rapport with ourselves that attempts to embrace the positive things and resist the negative things. But the issue is, because we're coming out of the dark ages, quite literally, we are not aware of these past life issues that we want to resolve, whether bringing them back to life or ending certain negative habits we have with ourselves. In fact, that's what part of enlightenment is. We'll be talking about this today with Katie in our Astro Mingle segment about what sort of karma and past life energies hold us back from ascension. Literally, I believe during the dark ages, which to me, the dark ages really started in the age of Pisces, energy on the planet sort of crunched down. Now, it could have happened before Pisces. In fact, Pisces might have been the start of the awakening, to be honest. Probably it was the age of Aries that was the darkest age. That was when we were completely ego-based in the age of Aries, focused merely on survival. So all of our conscious focus was sort of right in front of us. That's what we mean by dark. We weren't paying attention to our spiritual self. We weren't paying attention to past lives. We weren't aware of subconscious triggers. We were just fighting in the dark, literally, to stay alive. Then the age of Pisces began right around the time of Christ, as we measure it here in Western time, before Christ and after Christ, basically. And that was when energies began to, let's say, thaw out, where we began to get ahead on survival. We started to have things like agriculture. We started to have things, society came together, markets came together. We could actually take more time for spirituality and religion. And of course, really, age of Pisces has been nothing but fighting over spirituality and religion. Then we've started to wake up more and more along the course. And basically, the last time Neptune, which is the antenna of spirituality, was in Pisces at this degree was actually 1860, right before the American Civil War. Neptune in Pisces, every time it's in Pisces, it wakes us up more to our spiritual self, wakes us up more to our connection to our higher self. And then this time in 2012, Neptune re-entered Pisces. And now really we are opening up, I think, the entire ceiling of subconscious availability. And we're now fully aware of our karma. That's the long story of it. The short story of it is you've been becoming more and more aware of your karmic issues since 2012. But this year in March, when Saturn entered into Pisces, this was the first time we could actually fully awake, fully aware of our subconscious tendencies, which, by the way, you may not be aware that they're subconscious, but you are aware that you tend to keep screwing up or triggering yourself or tripping over the same issues. So whether or not you're spiritually aware, you are probably aware of your karmic issues. As of March, we began to take responsibility to become aware exactly of what those issues are with ourselves. And through this entire year of 2023, it has been the universe presenting you with an old issue you have with yourself and your choice as to whether or not you want to eliminate that issue or you want to repeat that issue. And honestly, I got to say, I myself did both since March. I've tripped over myself in ways, which is fine. I mean, as long as you're aware, you can learn to not do it again. And in some cases, I've caught myself right in the act of making an old mistake and I've turned it around. But where this brings us to here in Scorpio is Saturn went direct on November 4th in Pisces, which means the universe has completely shown us all the karma we have with ourselves. And now with the sun in Scorpio, we have the potential to now cut those cords once and for all and step away from, draw a line between the old self and the new self. And so this Scorpio season has been, I think, pretty intense because what we've been doing is really having to call that line, to draw that line. In fact, I was watching a couple other astrologers online. They were talking about how incredibly rocky it was between the solar eclipse we had in Libra at 21 degrees and the lunar eclipse we had in Taurus at 5 degrees at the end of last month in October. It was pretty intense. But again, part of that, I think, was the awakening of how we need to change. And with the sun in Scorpio, the realization of where the cords are. I bring all that backstory in just to bring you up to speed with where we are this week. This week, we're at a point now where we're ready to make the final leap to change our life. We have been moving through all the degrees of Scorpio, which is your boundaries with yourself, then your boundaries with daily life as a result of your relationship to yourself. And in the last week, our boundaries with long-term goals, our boundaries with associations and groups, our boundaries with long-term relationships, for instance. In fact, last Monday, about a week ago, 5 days ago from this night, we had a new moon at 20 degrees Scorpio. And that new moon was the emotional cradle, basically, to hold space for this new life that we want to live. So it's been sort of like, you can think of it sort of as an unzipping, or you can think of it as sort of an unraveling of, we were once tied up. And now at that new moon, we came to this pinnacle point where it was time to jump. And so for this last week, as we just lived here, the last 5 days from step 20 to now where we are today, step 25, you have hopefully cut all of the cords that had you tied to the future you did not want. That's in essence what we've been working on. The things I don't want to happen in my future, which means maybe ending certain paths, perhaps realizing certain relationships were not going to fly any longer, perhaps realizing certain job situations were not going to fly any longer. And literally, as I broadcast tonight at step 25 Scorpio, this next 24 hours is us connecting to spirituality or higher self to see whether or not we are really on the right path. And then this weekend, as you heard probably in the Zodiac Weather, we will commit. And then on Monday, we will cut the cords. And that is the beginning of the new life. So to me, this is the most exciting time we've ever lived, because since I went on the air about 17 years ago, I've been doing nothing but tripping over my cords and tripping over other people's cords as well. So to have this final spiritual cord cutting moment to me is quite thrilling. And you might have been feeling that as well in this last month as well. It's been very difficult. It's been challenging, but I want you to know it's going to be worth it. It's going to pay off. The things that you are ending, the doors that you're opening, this is for what I believe is the new age to come. Now, a lot of people talk about the age of Aquarius, and people have asked me about the age of Aquarius too. And I want to sort of put it into perspective, because Pluto moves into Aquarius next January. Of course, after the new year, January 20 to 21st, the Sun and Pluto both move into Aquarius. It will dip back into Capricorn from September to November. So there'll be a final test in Capricorn. But for the most part, Pluto moving into Aquarius in January is the beginning, in my opinion, of ascension. And you may ask, what does that mean? Well, it means that all this karma and all these issues we've had, as long as we've been sort of looking back over our shoulder at the past, like the times that I failed in the past, or we've been looking down at ourselves and calling ourselves a failure, or we've been looking down at ourselves and wishing we could be what we once were in a past life, or we could thrive like we once thrived, all that direction I was just speaking to is really the past. It's kept us held down. It's kept us in lower frequencies. These cords I'm talking about, which is this us being tied to outcome or being tied to proving something or being tied to an insecurity, this has kept us tied down from being able to ascend to higher frequencies. And higher frequencies, in my opinion, are frequencies that are out of the normal, let's say, listening range for the ear, out of the normal visual viewing range for the eye. We've literally been sort of stuck in the valley of humanity, and we haven't been able to climb to the mountaintop. Now, the age of Aquarius is allegedly, and I say allegedly because there's something in history about this. The last time we were in an Aquarius age was Atlantis and Lemuria, if you believe in ancient societies, which I do. But from what I understand, the age of Aquarius is where the entire society is in this higher frequency and living in this higher frequency. The expectation date for that to happen is in about 100 years still. So we're still another 100 years from where all of society is in this higher vibration. But I believe that it is up to this generation on Earth, most likely the people watching this show, because you're interested, for us to get us to that plateau. Although the age of Aquarius is not for 100 plus years, I believe we either turn toward that enlightenment in this lifetime, or we stay and plunge deeper into the valley of darkness. Although the age of Aquarius isn't for 100 years, it will not happen without our spiritual work, which begins next year. This is why this lifetime is so important. This is why you came on planet Earth at this time, because you want to be part of those pioneers, much like we've had pioneers such as finding new lands, such as discovering ancient mysteries, such as uncovering, things under the earth that was buried. There's this pioneering spirit that comes out whenever something opens up new. You are here for this pioneering moment to be able to help raise the planet, which means you are the spiritual Lewis and Clark that's going to make an expedition to a higher frequency. It is up to a select few. I'm not sure how many that select few is, but I know it's not the bell curve of the population, to cut these cords at this time so you are free to rise to a higher frequency and hopefully live and report back to the masses what we're seeing in this high vibration. And I believe in my whole heart that exposition to a higher spiritual ground begins January 20th and 21st, as the sun and Pluto both go together into Aquarius. And by the way, Pluto stays in Aquarius for 24 years. It's a long transit. It's the antithesis of the baby boom. The baby boom was 24 years of Leo, and on the other side of the racetrack, 24 years of Aquarius. So it's sort of interesting. You could say that the baby boom and their intention for love and light and free love and freedom, all those things that they fought for in the 60s and early 70s in particular, it's now time for us to take that foundation of love and use it to high vibe to a higher understanding of consciousness. And I think for all of us, it's a new game. It's a new world. So this moment this week is exciting because you can kind of think of this as a hot air balloon. This week, the sun in Scorpio will be making the final cuts that keep you tied to the valley. They keep you tied to the valley of fear and the valley of sorrow and the valley of negative karma and self-hatred and, and self-deprecation. These are the last chords that hold us back. And for those who are ready, from here, we float on. To quote Modest Mouse, we float on. It all just floats on. So this week is an exciting week, I think, and a dramatic week. I mean, even dramatic for us. We're showing up a little late tonight, like sliding under into home base in the final hour here. This week, I coined the week enacting a change of power. This is the week of enacting a change of power. This is the week where we, in essence, are cutting the final chords that will allow us to come into our power. And there's a few reasons for that, by the way. One of the reasons is the story I just gave you, in the sense that our power comes from the fact that we cut off from the lower frequencies. And because we cut off from the lower frequencies, we're able to float to a higher realm. We're now free to move into the direction that we want to. The other aspect of why this is a week of enacting a change of power is because we have a very powerful transit, although subtle but powerful, where the sun this week is going to sextile Pluto. This will be on Monday. I'll talk about this. I'll show you the chart for this. This sun-Pluto sextile is basically a reckoning with Pluto in Capricorn at 28 degrees, which means that as soon as you rise to a higher vibration, you're going to now realize that your personal power in the world has changed. And you may feel this in a number of areas this week, folks. Like, for instance, once you realize, to give you like a practical example, because I'm all high in the clouds, high and mighty right now as far as where we're going, like thunder and Zeus kind of like ideas. Let's bring it down to earth. What does this mean in a practical sense? Well, it means when you finally say enough is enough, I'm not letting this job get to me anymore. I'm cutting these cords. I have this karma of not believing in myself. And then that brings me to a job I don't really love. And then that gets me treated by coworkers in a way that doesn't respect me. And then that makes me depressed about my future. And then that makes me doubtful that I can change my life. Like, it starts all from the doubting yourself, and it builds like a weed wraps around a flower. And this relationship to yourself ends up kind of corrupting and cramping and suffocating and choking the life out of your tree of life inside of you, till we get to this top notion. When you say, that's it, I'm going to cut this cord to myself, which, by the way, is represented this week when the sun squares Saturn. We'll talk more about that. Then that entire weed that was strangling the life out of your soul garden, that was strangling the life out of your flower, that weed dies. And suddenly you look your boss in the eye and you go, you know what? I think I'm done. I don't need to prove anything. I'm going to take my power back. The same can be true in a romantic relationship. You decide to cut the cords where you're not going to doubt yourself. You're going to love yourself first. You're going to believe in yourself. You're going to turn that karma around with yourself. As a result, you realize you don't have to make apologies in relationships. You don't have to explain things. You don't have to try to win love from other people. You don't have to convince anyone that you're worthy. And you get all the way top to this top and you realize, you know what? I'm tired of fighting for this toxic relationship. I'm no longer going to allow my future to be entangled in this toxic relationship. Why? Because I have discovered the root of the weed, where I did not treat myself appropriately, and that led to mistreatment in my life, and that led to not being in power in daily life, and that led me to committing my heart to someone that doesn't appreciate me. So this is a week of enacting a change of power, because you cut the chords of where you were undercutting your own power at the very base of your tree of life, at the very base of your soul garden, at the very root, which is what Saturn direct at step 0. Saturn's at step 0 this week, which is cutting Scorpio, new boundaries. Because we cut that weed and we pull it out of our soul garden, we now allow everything that weed was contaminating to be set free. So it's a powerful, liberating moment for us this week. Now, the other theme for the week is shifting the inner narrative. And this is the next step to cutting the cords. This is the sun entering into Sagittarius. Now, Mercury has already entered into Sagittarius. I reported on this last week. Our mind is already starting to think about how the story is changing. In fact, I had a very exciting week. I can't tell the details yet, but so many exciting things happened this week where my story has already changed in theory, but I haven't actually changed the story yet. When the sun hits Sagittarius and catches up to Mercury, starts to catch up to where Mercury has already traveled this last week, your heart will begin to realize, and this, by the way, happens on hump day, late in the day on Wednesday, always hump day, right? Always on Wednesday it happens, always changes on Wednesday. But come the sun in Sagittarius, we start to rewrite our story or our inner narrative. And this inner narrative was the inner narrative that was tied to the karma that we had. So let's say you have karma with yourself where you don't love yourself. You try to earn the love from the world, but you don't love yourself. Well, the story of I'm nobody, nobody loves me, the story of I'm so alone, the story of why has everyone abandoned me, the story of why can't I find someone that I deserve in my life? See, all of that changes now. That narrative that you tell yourself, that you tell other people, that you blog about, or that you tweet about on x.com, that narrative suddenly is obsolete. And that's going to be frightening and also enlightening at the same time. So the second theme of the week is, as you pull this weed, this toxic weed of karma out of your soul garden, as you make that final cut, which, by the way, will be Sunday night, Monday morning, to give you context, then suddenly it's a new story. And we'll be talking about this starting next week in our Namaste Today. We'll be talking about how to architect that story and what elements to be mindful of in that story. We'll be telling it in SeriousJoy.com, my personal sensei service. I'll be talking about how to craft that story, because we want to be suspicious to not have old elements of the old story. To put this in a very simple way, I don't care what has happened to you in your life. I don't care how hard it has been. I don't care how impossible it has seemed. That's all the old story. That basically was the prequel to the real movie. So you're going to find here in the next 6 months what the real movie of your life is, what the real story of your life is. And we start authoring that new story starting this Wednesday, which is very exciting. And by the way, it can be anything you want. You are not limited. From my research, you are not limited in any way, shape, or form. It is a very exciting time. And it's exciting for you because you're aware of it. I wish other people were aware of this. I wish the whole world knew, because yes, the world looks dark. It looks terrifying right now because these other people don't realize we're on the brink of enlightenment. We're on the brink of love. We're on the brink of happiness. And what you're seeing is the final fall of the age of darkness. You're seeing the fall, or the beginning of the fall, of when we were asleep and we were fighting for survival. That story is over and is expired, and it expires this week. Very exciting. The key question to ask yourself this week, yes, clean slate, said somebody. I agree. It's a clean slate. It is a clean slate. The question of the week is, what does my heart believe? What does my heart believe? And the reason for this question is because your mind, and this is another thing, I'm so glad I just remembered this, your mind is officially clueless. Your mind is clueless. Only your heart knows what the story is going to be from this point, because the way the mind works is the mind only knows things that it has seen before. The mind does not come up with something original or creative. The mind recognizes an original thought. The mind notices it. The mind talks about it. But original ideas, creation, comes from creation, the crown down. We download ideas and our mind holds on to it and goes, whoa, that's a good idea. But now that we are crafting a new story, Your mind is clueless. This is unwritten territory here. There is nothing to base it on. Unless you have acute memory of living in Atlantis, there's nothing to apply here as far as what you're going to do. Your mind has no clue on what this story needs to be. Only your heart knows what this story needs to be. And if you need further definition, this is what your heart wishes it would be. That's really what it comes down to. You know, a lot of people go, I don't know how to talk to my heart. I don't know how I know if my heart is talking to me. The answer is your heart is a part of you that wishes. So if you wish there would be no crime on the earth, that's your heart talking. If you wish you could just be alone for a few minutes, that's your heart talking. If you wish you could have a banana or a cupcake, that's your heart talking. Your heart is a part of you that wishes upon a dream. Your heart is a part of you that is creative. And as we move forward, the reason why we have to ask, what does my heart believe, is because the mind is going to start to parrot the past based on the weeds we just pulled from our soul garden, the past based on our karma with ourselves, the past based on the entanglements our karma made with the world, the past based on the way people treated us based on the entanglements based on our karma with ourselves. The mind is all programmed to the old story right now. So as of this week, as of the sun at 0 degrees Sagittarius, you frankly cannot trust your mind. And you may go, well, when can I trust my mind? I think you can start trusting it when Jupiter goes into Gemini next May of 2024. That's when our mind starts to get the new script. That's when our mind sort of figures out, it starts to make clarity of what this is going to be. Basically, in Gemini of next year, which is 6 months from the time that we write the new story in Sag, we write the new story in Sag with our heart. Our heart writes this story. And then our mind finally gets the script and gets the memo and gets on the same page in June of next year, basically, in late May, when the sun goes into Gemini and Jupiter goes into Gemini. That's when the mind will get it. So let's go ahead and just write ourselves a pardon. For the next 7 months, our mind is going to be stupid. It's going to be based on the old stuff. It's going to be archaic. It's going to be mirroring stuff. And I'm going to be reminding you week after week after week. I'm going to nag you, nag you like your worst nightmare, to say, don't trust what your mind is telling you. What does your heart believe? That is the question of the week and really the question of the year. What does your heart believe? What your heart believes is the new script. What your mind says is the old script. Now, with that said, let's get nano on what this week is about and talk about the planets. The sun this week goes from step 25 tonight to step 1 week from now. So we'll be back on the air. I will be here on Black Friday doing Namaste Today live, by the way. I will be here on Black Friday. We will be having a show live. God praise, we'll be on time. It'll come out, everything will be fine. So thank you for your patience with us tonight. And when we come to this moment, our heart will be ruling the day. Actually, probably emotions by that time. It'll be step 2 by the time the show's on. So basically from tonight to next Friday, we wrap up Scorpio. Scorpio comes to a climax Wednesday morning. And then we move into the early degrees of Sagittarius. So our heart goes from cutting the cords in Scorpio to starting to rewrite the story we were born to live in Sagittarius. We end the week on step 2, this Friday night next week on step 2. We're starting to write our story around our feelings. And by the way, I'll just say right now, the 3 stories we're going to tell, the new story chapters we're going to tell, is on Thursday with step 0, we write a new story about whether or not we are safe. On Friday morning, we write a new story about whether or not we love ourselves. And then Saturday morning, we write a new story about how we feel about ourselves. So ironically, and I'll just put this out there right here, here in the United States, we have Thanksgiving over this upcoming week. That's why we have a picture of a turkey in the oven for the open of the show. That turkey wasn't a portrait of me. That turkey was about Thanksgiving. Now, this Thanksgiving with your family, I'm not sure what you're doing, but try not to take anything personally at Thanksgiving, because everyone is, in essence, their mind's going to be chattering the old story, but their heart's going to be wanting a new story. Unless you follow an astrologer or someone who's paying attention to these energies, no one's going to have gotten the memo that this is the story they're born to live starting right now. So If you go to your home and you find incredible contrast with your family and you see that contrast is not for you to convince that you're right and they're wrong. That contrast is for you to clearly understand the story that is ending and the story that is beginning. So use any contrast that happens this weekend to your benefit so that you can understand that, yes, this is where I came from, but I'm so happy this is over. And that's the beginning of rewriting the new story. So here in the United States, we rewrite the new story based on our family connection, which is very interesting. And step 0, 1, 2, and 3 are the most powerful degrees of the story. So you'll have the premise of your new book basically ready by this Sunday, the 26th, this upcoming Sunday, the 26th, story of your new book. Very exciting. And I just thought about something else. Now, Mercury this week moves from step 12 to step 20 Sagittarius. So the mind, of course, as it always is ahead. As you're writing the story of yourself and starting to make those final cuts to the old things, your mind is already thinking about, oh, this is going to change things in my daily life. This is going to change stuff with my daily relationships. So the mind is going to work through the consequences all week long of if I cut this, what happens? If I cut that, what happens? So the mind is working ahead, and that's fine. Just realize the spiritual story or the spiritual work is really the story you tell yourself. Because remember, that is the basis of your tree of life, the story you tell yourself. That's your basis. So if this is clean, then every branch and every direction that tree of life flows into will be according to that tree trunk, that foundation that you built. So although your mind is thinking about how it's going to branch off this way and how it's going to go that way, what's most important this week is getting really clear on what's my new story with myself. I'm no longer abandoning myself. I'm no longer, accepting that attitude from myself. I'm no longer putting myself down. I'm no longer whatever the story has to be. I can come up with a billion things of being negative with ourselves. I've lived them all. Now, the moon this week is pretty intense in some ways. I mean, it's a bit of an emotional week in that sense. We start off kind of cold and detached. In fact, right now, as I speak, the moon is in Aquarius. So we're all a bit detached right now. And on Saturday and Sunday, the next 2 days, we're sort of feeling with the moon in Aquarius of where we belong. So we're feeling where we belong. And this where we belong is sort of like us aiming for how we're going to cut the cord. So you're sort of feeling like, I'm going to cut the cord here in this particular story. I'm going to cut the cord here in this particular thing. So the moon in Aquarius is helping you feel where you belong. I belong in Monday through Wednesday, but I don't belong Thursday and Friday at that job. Or we belong being friends, but I don't feel like we belong working together. So you're going to sort of feel out the nuances of where the cord needs to be cut, so to speak, here tonight, Sunday, and half of Monday. Basically, the first half of Monday is the moon's in Aquarius. So what I'm basically saying is feel out all that belonging. As the moon is feeling out where you belong, Sunday is step 26. So Sunday is the day that you decide exactly how you're going to change your life. So you decide exactly what cords will be cut on Sunday. You could be ready to cut them on Sunday night, but I recommend you wait until Monday morning to make the cuts. Just saying. You always want to sleep on that decision. You always want to give it. And the moon is in Aquarius during that time. So you're going to sort of process, okay, this is where it belongs. This is where I think I need to make the incision. This is where I think I need to make the cut. And then come Monday, we make the cut. And then the moon goes straight into Pisces, which means from Monday night, all day Tuesday, and half of Wednesday, you are emotionally processing the karma of what you have been through. So I am predicting that Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning could be very emotional. You may relive, Edward Scissorhands, I love that, Michelle Bell. You may relive some of your karma. You might cry for the first time of what you put yourself through in this lifetime. I mean, some people hold out to the last minute for those fire, those waterfalls. You may have a moment where you feel like you're making the mistake of your life, but what you're really doing is you're remembering a time when you did make the mistake of your life. And so there might be some, total recall of past life feelings, much more intense than usual. In fact, the moon crosses Saturn on Monday. So you feel on Monday like, wow, my life is changing. My karma is changing. My fate's changing. And so I'm predicting for Monday night, Tuesday, and half of Wednesday, it could be emotional ups and downs, hot and colds, a lot of waterworks. to translate this into like simple American life, you may be a hot mess emotionally leading up to Thanksgiving. Okay. And I want you to know nothing's wrong. It's that things are going right for the first time. That's what the emotion is. Like, oh my God, it's finally going right. Pinch me. Is this real? That I think will be part of what we're feeling. Then come Wednesday night, like trumpets playing, like angel trumpets playing, like the Rocky music in the 70s. That's what I'm thinking of in my head. The moon moves into Aries. And this is right at step 29, by the way. So Wednesday on hump day is a day where the moon will cross Neptune and then go into Aries. So you realize the fate of what you're doing. And for those of you, if you end a relationship or quit a job, it could be heavy, right? There could be a lot of heaviness there. Come Wednesday, you will be tempted to go back. You might be going, am I making a mistake? I don't know. Is this a mistake? So I want to say you're going to have, FOMO, fear of missing out, big time. If you don't do it, you're going to have fear of regretting what you do. And depending on the gravity of your karma, the more intense the drama. And I myself have a Leo rising, so it will be dramatic. Like I will make it as dramatic as possible. I don't always share that drama with everybody, but people who work with me know I have it. I'm like texting like, oh my God. So Sunday's like this big, intense crescendo of energy. And then come Thanksgiving Day here in the United States, we go to step 0 and the moon's in Aries. And what's the moon in Aries? The moon in Aries is the newborn life. So isn't it fascinating? Like the moon is always in sync with stuff. Okay. The fact that the moon goes to the Aries, with Aries is the rising, the new life rising. The moon goes to the new life rising on the eve of the story you were born to live, on the eve of the beginning of our new story. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. I mean, that just to me confirms that this is what's going to happen. And then come Friday, the moon is in Aries again. So Thursday, the moon's in Aries. By the way, 0 degree sun, Aries moon, them's fighting words at the Thanksgiving table. Do not bring up politics. Do not bring up anything that will trigger those people, because I would say there's a lot of people in denial who know they need to cut the cords and they're not. And so on Thursday, whether you have Thanksgiving or not, people are going to be damn feisty this Thanksgiving with the moon in Aries and the sun at 0 Sagittarius, especially around belief structure, people hiding and holding on to try to prove their old story, which is ancient history now. That old story just goes on the bookshelf to be read in the Akashic records later when we die. So the moon is in Aries on Thursday, pretty aggressive. Aries on Friday, Black Friday. People are going to be fighting each other for those discounts at Montgomery Ward's or wherever, Kohl's or, like Target or whatever. So I would stay out of that mess if I were you. And then the Mars moves into Sagittarius right thereafter. And so basically come Friday with the moon in Aries, we've officially lit the fire of our new story. So it's a powerful crescendo and we feel it the whole week. We're cold now. We're mushy in Pisces, and then we're strong and resistant in some cases with the moon in Aries. Now, I will say Black Moon Lilith this week is in Virgo, as it has been. It's going to be in Virgo still for another 8 months or so, maybe 7 months. I'm not exactly sure. It's at 5 degrees Virgo right now. So you will be facing fears around mental health, around mind games, fears around, thinking straight. So any sort of fear, trauma around the way you think, this may come out. Venus in Libra this week is helping us to open up to a new life. So Venus this week moves from 11 degrees to 18 degrees Libra. So this week we sort of open up and we start to realize that by cutting these cords that we're free of certain injustices. By cutting these cords, new opportunity can flow. And it's sort of like once you break the beaver dam, all that water flushes into your life and starts to bring nutrients and nurturing to your life. So you're going to start to see this week and feel your life blooming in a way that you haven't seen it bloom ever in your life is my prediction. And it's mostly felt more than it's seen, but it'll be an energetic shift. Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are stationary at their current degrees. Saturn at 0 degrees direct Pisces. So we are, officially starting the new karmic story. We're cutting the cords to the old karmic story. We're now starting ground 0, step 0, the new spiritual story. Neptune at 24 means that we are accepting our fate now. So spiritually, you are starting the new story. You are accepting your fate. Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. Jupiter goes from 8 degrees to 7 degrees Taurus this week. And that basically means that we now realize our values. We're committed to this new value of ourself. And I talked about that last week. Last week, we were committed to this new value of ourself and realizing I'm worth more. Jupiter moving to 7 on Wednesday. Jupiter moves to 7 on hump day, on the final test, which means now we're starting to believe in the new karma with ourselves. We're starting to believe in what we deserve as a result of the new karma with ourselves. So it's almost like we're feeling ourselves wake up this week. You start to feel yourself come back to life. It's almost like there's been parts of you that have been numb and you're starting to get feeling back in your limbs is I think what's going to happen. And that starts around Wednesday. Uranus holding true at 20 degrees Taurus basically means that we are innovating the potential for the future manifestation. You're just innovating potential. So it's like, I now realize I have the potential to be independent. I have the potential to find love again. I have the potential to start my own new business. I have the potential to come into some wealth and hold true that potential. By the way, that potential is felt, not seen or thought. It's felt. It's step 20. In the Aries spectrum, we have Chiron that goes from 16 to 15. And this does mean that, and this happens on Wednesday also. So Jupiter and Chiron both retrograde one step on the same day on hump day, Wednesday. So Wednesday is the big climax where we're tempted back, where we have to hold true, where the moon moves into Aries and we get feisty and we start to question, are we doing the wrong thing? Jupiter moves to 7, Chiron moves to 15. So Wednesday is definitely the day where we're going to see shift at the fan. I pray for those who are having to travel on that day because it's going to be hell. Okay, I'm just saying that. Like, give yourself some time. Do not speed in traffic, folks. Take your time getting there because the energy on Wednesday is incredibly intense. But Chiron moving to 15 does mean that we begin the healing process with certain relationships in our daily life. 15 is our relationships in daily life. So whatever you're worried about with other people or whatever, that healing process begins with other relationships come Wednesday. So, and healing takes time, by the way, but at least it's starting. The North Node's still at 24, which means our ego is aiming for the new relationship to the future, for the new relationship to others, for the new big picture. And Pluto still at 28. I'll show you here in the chart, meaning we are still manifesting a new seat of power. And we're manifesting this new seat of power until December 21st, basically the first day of Capricorn and the first day of winter, literally winter solstice. I remember from Game of Thrones, winter is coming. This year, winter is coming. Pluto moves to 29 on the first day of winter, basically, which means that seat of power you've been setting up for will start to be tested. And it'll be tested from December 21st until January 21st. 1 month of test of people trying to, or situations tempting you to undo that new seat of power. All right. Okay. Yes. Lots of power going on right now with Pluto and Capricorn, Zen Within. Nice to see Zen Within. We'll see you shortly. So nice to see you in the chat. Awesome. And hello, April Sparks. Welcome to the chat. Nice to see you too. So let's take a look at the planets and transits and look specifically at a few charts real quick. We did start a little late, so I'm going to rush through these a little quicker than usual, but still you'll get the gist of it if you follow along. Here we go. Okay. So as I mentioned, coming up, Katie Sutton is our guest today, founder of Zen Within Academy. She will be our guest on Astro Mingle. Keep streaming for that. The first chart that I find to be important is on Wednesday. Oh, excuse me. This is the wrong chart. Boop, boop. My bad. Is actually Monday. Forgive me. That was an old chart. That was a deja vu chart. On Monday, Mercury will trine Chiron. And the reason why this is important is because remember, this week is very much about cutting those cords, right? And moving into the future. And there's a moment here on Monday. It happens at Monday night. So it's as you're going to bed Monday night, but Mercury at 16 Sag is writing the new story for daily life. And Chiron at 16 Aries is healing our daily life. And so I want to say on Monday, if you've had a daily life issue, it looks like your mind comes to terms with what that is and you find peace. So if you've been caught in any negotiations or problems with someone else or some sort of situation, you're going to find that come Monday's the day where Monday night, really Tuesday's probably when you recognize, but as it's coming into orb is when we're figuring it out. This is when you've got it figured out. So when you go to bed, you've figured it out. You finally have found a way of reframing that story to where you can let something go or let a mistake go in your past. So this is one of the compelling transits, I think. And if you're having an issue with someone in day-to-day life, come Monday, I think you come to terms with that. Also, before that, in the afternoon on that Monday, the sun sextiles Pluto on the same day. And this is right after step 27. So remember, we cut the cords Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, all right, you now come to a new seat of power. This is where you realize, this is where we're enacting a change of power. This is where you realize, hey, if I cut these cords, and there's Mars at 27, Grandmaster Mars actually following through and cutting the cords. You could say the morning was the commandment, and Mars reaches there, it's the execution. You then realize with this sextile, hey, I'm in a new seat of power. I'm no longer under the influence of so-and-so. I'm no longer having to report to this person. I no longer have to, do this in my industry because I'm cutting these cords. I am transforming my life. I'm getting rid of these weeds in my soul garden. Notice that the moon has crossed Saturn earlier in the day, which means that we have felt the new spiritual story being birthed. And then, of course, we have this new seat of power. And then actually Mercury trines Chiron, realizing, oh, my problems during the day have been cleaned up now that I realize this. So it's a powerful start of the week. All right. (8:15 p.m.) I was looking at the Mars. I'm trying to say, what's the difference between this one and this one? I guess it's the same. So then we have Mars sextiling Pluto. Oh, then Mars sextiles Pluto the next day. That's where I was confused. Sorry, we have the sun, then the Mars. I was like, wait, I just did this. What's different? What's different is it looks like the cutting of the reseating of power happens from Monday afternoon until Tuesday night. So from Monday to Tuesday is when your power shifts. So what this means is you might decide to cut cords at work, but negotiations and things won't be over until Tuesday night. There's some sort of a lag or a follow through, whatever. And what's interesting, this happens at night. So that Mars will actually sextile Pluto. This is the completion of the enacting of a change of power here. And what's fascinating about this, now the sun's at 29, so now you're starting to have second thoughts, maybe buyer's remorse, maybe worry. So as soon as that power shift happens, I would expect some sort of kickback or second guessing to happen. But notice shortly after that, about 8 hours after that, the moon crosses Neptune. And so we feel, my goodness, my destiny has changed. So you can see basically here, the sun conjuncts Mars. That was what I was looking at before. That was before. Mercury trining Chiron, the sun sextiling Pluto, Mars sextiling Pluto. This is all the changing of power. And then basically on Wednesday, the next day, the sun enters into Sagittarius. So you have this power shift, and then the sun moves into Sag. And when the sun moves into Sag, that is ground zero for the new story. Sagittarius is our story, our belief structure, the narrative, the characters involved in the narrative. So after that shift of power, it's now a new day. This is the story we're born to live. And this happens, the sun moving to Sag happens early morning on the East Coast on Wednesday, but it varies based on where you're born. The moon has crossed Neptune, so we have already accepted what our new fate is at this point. By the way, Venus at Grandmaster step 15, I can't put a circle around, but Venus is at step 15, Libra. That's a Grandmaster step. That means that our daily life has been restored to balance and tranquility. We also have Uranus and Neptune forming a yod here to the south node. So this means that with the birth of our new fate, with us transforming what we're going to manifest, we now can let go of the relationships that don't work, and we can embrace the relationship to life that will work. So literally, this moment is amazing. And of course, new story, and then the moon will trine Aries, new ego is born. So new story, new ego born here during the day of Wednesday. Then we have on Wednesday, a little bit later, Venus then opposes Chiron. So now we accept that there's a relationship that's going to heal. I talk about that. We now know a certain relationship is going to heal. Not only is Chiron at 15, it's just moved there from 16 to 15, but Venus at 15 is opposing it. So this is we now know certain things in our daily life are going to heal now that we pulled that weed. Then at the end of, that's next week, actually, Sun squares. And then the last thing to point out is actually on Friday of next week, Mars now joins the sun on Friday. This is Black Friday. Mars joins the sun in Sagittarius. The moon has crossed Chiron, which is fascinating. So we've sort of embraced that healing that we were talking about. The mind is looking to how this story is going to end as the ego and the heart working together sort of kickstart the story. And so by 1 week from today, we have cut the cords and we have now begun the new story. So hopefully you can see from that, this is a very heightened, fast-paced week, and things may happen really fast this week as far as events are concerned. So hang on to your hat and ground yourself, because a lot of times with Scorpio, and when we're holding on to old issues and old cords, people tend to hold on to the last minute, and then that final breakaway can be sort of a snap, like a rubber band snapping. So please be careful, stay in your heart, drive carefully, look both ways before you cross streets, because there's going to be a lot of explosive potential energy, especially as Mars hits 28 and 29 Scorpio there at the end of the week. All right. So that's not too bad. It's 7 after the hour. Not too bad. That's a spiritual number. I do think it's time now to talk about, well, how does this influence you? Go steep yourself some tea, my friend, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, friends. Welcome to our tea time. This is my tea time horoscope segment where I talk about all 12 signs and do a little story on what the 12 signs are doing for the week. By the way, if you haven't noticed, we're now releasing the horoscopes a second time on Tuesdays on our YouTube channel, where you can come back and re-look at your horoscope. You can look at your sun sign and your rising sign, of course. Some people like to look at their moon sign as well, but it's allow you to give you a reminder as we go through the week. And Tuesday is going to be perfect this week because remember, Wednesday is the big hump of the week. Now, this week, I really want to hone in on 4 things happening for each of the 12 signs. I want to first talk about what the sun in the high degrees of Scorpio means for you. Where are you transforming your life by cutting cords? So I'll talk about where that transformation is going to be, and how it is that you'll be cutting cords and where you'll be cutting cords. And by the way, just to be very clear, on your sun sign, this is where your power is. Your rising sign is the effect of your sun sign. So the rising is the rising of the soul on earth, okay, into physical form. The soul is the sun, in essence. The heart is the sun, the heart of the solar system. So when I talk about cutting cords, you've got to cut the cords first at the sun sign level and then at the rising sign level, and do it in that order. Usually you'll find they happen almost at the same time, but if you cut the cords where I say where the sun is for your sign, everything else in your life will fall into place. So the thing about Scorpio in our chart is that's the pinch point where we're holding everything together. And so for all 12 signs, I'll talk about cut the cords here and everything else will break free. It's sort of like just cutting one cord that unravels. You know, now I'm thinking of a Christmas tree, how it's all bound up. You cut the cord and poof, the tree pops out. That's basically what I'm going to say to you. Cut these cords and the rest of your soul will expand and be able to get comfortable in the room. Now, the second thing I'm going to talk about is Pluto. Remember, the sun will sextile Pluto on Monday. And remember, I said this is going to give you a change of power. So I'm going to talk about also for all 12 signs, where does that shift of power happen in your life, where you're going to see an immediate shift of power. And by the way, that shift of power will bleed into the rest of your life. So if you just focus on where I'm talking about the seat of power is, you'll see the power transform slowly through the rest of your life. Then I'm going to talk about what the sun in Sagittarius will mean for you. Where are you piloting a new story to tell yourself, that sun in Sagittarius? Where are you going to rewrite your inner dialogue to yourself energetically? So the sun in Sag will ultimately be the introduction of this new story. By the way, I should also say this is the area where you might be in denial, Well, your mind might try to talk you out of it. And so you've got to choose with the heart. Remember, what does my heart believe? That's the key question of the week. And then I'm going to speak to the sun squaring Saturn, which is actually what was missing from my chart there. I actually just saw it, sun squaring Saturn. And the sun squaring Saturn is going to be ultimately where the sun, your heart, this new story squares off with your spiritual story. So you have to reconcile that you have a new spiritual story in one area of your life and you have a new inner story in the other area of your life. And this is the other reason why this week is so phenomenal. It's on Thursday, Thanksgiving, that the sun squares Saturn. And it's on Thursday of step 0 that new story begins. So for all 12 signs, where are you cutting cords? Where are you reseeding your power? Where are you telling a new story to yourself? And how does that tie to a new spiritual chapter on Earth? Starting with the Aries. We're going to do a little drink here. Aries are making some deep, deep cuts. The sun is in the high degrees of your 8th house. So this means that you're making some long-term lifetime cuts. This means that you are ready to jump into a life transformation. It will probably have a lot of consequences, the cuts you're making. You might be quitting a job. You might be quitting a marriage. You might be quitting, you might be starting something too. I'm focusing on quitting. Maybe you've already quit. Maybe this is you finally jumping in the pool. It can be both, by the way. But it's time to go ahead and make those lifelong cuts, okay? And set lifelong boundaries. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to stick with them for the rest of your life, but at this point, you should plan to. These should be cuts that you are planning to until further information comes, okay? So these are personal, emotional comfort zones. This could be you opening up to something that you've never done before. Like, hey, I'm going to open up to performing on stage. I'm going to open up to stand-up comedy. I'm going to open up to getting married for a 3rd time. It might be something like that, or it might be, that's it, I'm done with this, take this job and shove it. Now, by making that life transformation, it will shift your power in your career and legacy. So it's highly likely that these cuts are tied to career legacy. They may be other and above than career legacy, but they're certainly connected to career legacy. By the way, career legacy is also your children as a leader, whatever you lead. It's a legacy leave behind on Earth. So it's everything that you're going to be known for in the end, but it's literally how you're in control of your life and control of your destiny. So these new boundaries tie into shifting your power in career and legacy. You then will begin a new story that you tell yourself about what you believe in yourself or don't believe in yourself. So this will be ultimately a new story of believing in yourself now, which would mean you're ending a story where you doubted yourself, which means you're ending a story of where you question yourself. This is now a new heartfelt story. Now, just because you believe doesn't mean you're convinced. I just want to say that, okay? Like, we believe first and then we have proof. Trust, but verify, okay? So you're going to trust this belief, but over time, you're going to verify, all right? And then the sun squaring Saturn means this is totally a new day of having new faith in yourself. So the new story for Aries is that you have a new power in your career, you believe in yourself, and you have faith in yourself. That's the new story for Aries, believing and having faith in yourself at the same time. And that's remarkable. And by the way, that's not 100%. It's going to take time to carry that out. These planets have to go forward from step 0, but this is you proclaiming this is the first day of believing in yourself and having faith in yourself no matter what. And that faith comes from the heart, by the way, and that belief also comes from the heart. Taurus, my fellow moos, moo, 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 moo. I'm going to speak only in moo for the Tauruses. You guys get this. Tauruses, you are transforming your approach to long-term relationships. This is, I find, the forging of new relationships. I have a lot of new partnerships that I have begun in the last 15 days. I have a lot of new goals I have created with these partners in the last 15 days. So it is not just actual partnerships. And these aren't new people in my life. Sometimes these are people that have been in my life, but we are now sort of bonding together towards a new direction. And we have a new vision for how we're going to cooperate and help one another. So this is a new transformation of long-term relationships for the Tauruses. Now, this change of long-term relationship directly changes your power as far as what your purpose will become. So by architecting the appropriate boundaries with long-term relationships, you then put yourself into a new path for what your purpose will be, a new meaning of what your life will take. And in some cases, it may be that you've always had that purpose, but it's finally taking off. You're finally in power. You're finally in the seat of power with your life purpose. So I'm finding that my life purpose isn't new, but I'm finally in the seat and I'm in the driver's seat. And you might be experiencing the same thing. And it's directly tied to the people you are partnering with or no longer connecting to. Now, when it comes to the sun in Sagittarius, it's a new story when it comes to trusting yourself, Taurus. You can now trust yourself in a new way. It's a new story of where you draw the line with yourself. It's a new story of where you give yourself a break. It's a new story of where you draw the boundary with yourself. It's a new story now of trusting yourself. That's the new Taurus. The Taurus trusts themselves in a new way. And that will square off with a new inner friendship to yourself, which is represented by Saturn and Pisces. This new trust in yourself means that now you are a new friend to yourself, that you are on the right side of yourself on the inside. You're not working against yourself. You're not abandoning yourself. You're not putting yourself out to roast. You're on the right side of yourself on the inside. You trust yourself and you're in the seat of your power for your legacy and what you were born to do. A very powerful, powerful moment for the Tauruses, builders of the new age. Geminis. That's right, Daryl. Geminis are now changing in their lifestyle. So you are cutting cords for a quality lifestyle. It's now time to get rid of the things that are not good for your body, get rid of the cycles that don't work for you, get rid of the work-life balance that's not working. It's time to step into a new lifestyle, cut the toxins of the old lifestyle, protect the purity of the new lifestyle, and cut out a nice life for yourself. So it's time to create boundaries that create a nice life for yourself. That's sleeping habits, eating habits, work habits, where you live. Is it by the ocean? Is it cake on the ocean? What is it? Okay. So crafting what that lifestyle is, that is how you cut the cords and you create the new life through there. That's your power. And that's true for Gemini risings as well. This will change and put you in a seat of power when it comes to transformation, put you in your seat of power for trust, put you in a seat of power for intimacy. Geminis have been afraid of intimacy for a long time. They sort of stay in their head. They're afraid of getting close. Their mind plays games with them. So it's like once you have your life in order, you're going to be able to open up and be intimate on a level you've never been intimate before. You're going to be able to change the rest of yourself, the parts you've been holding out. So this is a powerful change of your long-term boundaries as a result of cleaning up your boundaries in your daily life. By cleaning up your daily life, you can clean up the rest of your life. And you're now in the seat of power where you're making the changes. You're not afraid of changes happening to you. It's a flip reversal, I think, of Gemini in power. Where the story changes is in your mirage. I don't know if you call yourself dumb, if you call yourself lazy. I don't know what you say to yourself in your mirage with those two twins of yours, but now it's time for a new story. It's time to be you talking to yourself in a different way, you relating to yourself in a different way. Your story that you tell yourself when you look in the mirror, that story is now a new story. Let go of the old story, put that on the bookshelf, write a new story about who you are to you. This energy squares off with self-discipline. So Geminis, now that they're telling themselves a new story, now they can commit to things without hesitation. Now you can take your power without hesitation. Now you can climb the ladder that you want to climb because you're not calling yourself a loser or talking yourself out of it or second guessing things. So by correcting that story you tell yourself of who you are and who you're not, now with Saturn at 0 Pisces, you can create something long lasting in your life that you can count on. And by the way, that's going to lead to your career and your legacy. So for Geminis, you're in the seat of power of now you're controlling the boundaries. You're not afraid of them. You have a new story in your mirage. And now you're self-disciplined. You can take it to whatever level it needs to go. Cancers. Cancers are re-architecting their boundaries around love and personal dreams. And I've talked to a few Cancers about this. Cancers will, go a little too far for love, I've found. They will sacrifice a little too much for love. You've let people in that are toxic. You have gone back and hooked back up with your ex. You have crossed the lines when it comes to love and haven't preserved your heart. So your boundary structure is protecting your heart, protecting your dreams, protecting, holding space for the one that you deserve, and not letting anyone that's below that level come into the equation. So it's kind of time for Cancers to become purified in a way. I'm thinking actually of Vesta, but ultimately it's time to ultimately light an eternal flame for your personal dreams and cut out anything that's not completely aligned with your heart. Now, what this does is this puts you into the seat of power in long-term relationships. Long-term relationships. Now, by loving yourself and making sure your heart gets what your heart wants, you now are in a seat of power in long-term relationships. You're not the one chasing. You're not the one hoping. You're not the one waiting for someone to figure out. You now are choosing your mate. You are choosing not to fall down the wormhole of the inappropriate mate. And you're also cutting out the people in your life that frankly don't deserve how caring you are. And some Cancers care a little too much. The new story that you're going to write for yourself, Cancer, is around your health and how you live in the moment. Do you live in the moment joyfully in your heart? Do you live in your emotions? Do you live in stress? Do you live in a diseased body? However your life has been, and I hear this all the time. My mom's a Cancer, so I hear this all the time. My life has been this and my life has been that. And mama, the story's changed now. I'm going to tell her at Thanksgiving, it's time for a new story about what your life is and what your life isn't. This is a new story for the Cancers and their daily life. Now, this at the same time must be squared off with a new spiritual story about believing in yourself. So this new life comes along with believing in yourself 100%. Now you have full belief. That's the new story. That's the new karmic pattern that Cancers now believe. I think that because Cancers got, caught up in dysfunctional relationships, they started to question themselves. They started to question their life. They started to question themselves. And it wasn't you. It was that you had inappropriate boundaries around love. You weren't in your seat of power in relationships. And so you started to think you were the problem. And in a way you were, because you were letting people get away with it. But I think once you get clean on your boundaries around your heart, now you can fully believe in your life and you can fully believe in yourself. So I'm excited to see what happens with Cancers going forward. Now we'll move on to our next one. But first I'm going to drink. All right. Leos. Leos, you are drawing new emotional boundaries around emotional security. So this is about creating new boundaries around what is home, what is family, what is comfort for you, what does it take for you to thrive, what sort of emotional nurturing do you need to be the best lion that you can be, what will make that kitty cat purr? That's the question for Leos, is trying to create that new emotional boundary. Now, this means that you're going to go ahead and cut the cords to dysfunctional family relationships, end toxic patterns that started in childhood. This is the end, really, of Leo's dysfunctional childhood messing up the rest of their life. And yes, we all had a dysfunctional childhood. I haven't met anyone who had. The only person I know had a functional childhood is Betty White. But Betty was a Capricorn, so I don't know if she's being honest. Okay? Not that Capricorns lie, but just, they tend to only point out the good stuff, right? But the point is everyone had dysfunctional childhoods, but you can no longer allow that dysfunction to affect your emotional kernel and to affect your foundation. So you have to build a solid moat around your castle and keep your castle high vibration, your emotional foundation high vibration. What this does is put you into a seat of power in daily life. So what has challenged your power at work, in daily life, in routines, in your health? Basically, what the planets are saying is right now, the thing in the way of you being an empower in daily life is that your home, family, and emotional kernel is not grounded. So when you ground your emotional kernel, then you can take the seat of power in your daily life, which means the promotions will happen, which means the connections will happen, which means the referrals will happen, which means business will stir up, all from coming from an emotionally grounded place. Okay. Now, the story that's going to change is self-love. And this is a big deal because Leos naturally do love themselves, but they also naturally don't love themselves in other areas. I know a lot of Leos will be like, oh, I'm fabulous at this, but I'm horrible at this, or my wardrobe sucks, or blah, blah, blah. So there's things you love about yourself, but you don't fully love yourself unconditionally. So I think the story change for Leo is unconditional self-love, that there are no conditions. You don't have to be a star to love yourself. You don't have to be married to somebody hot to love yourself. You don't have to own, be a celebrity to love yourself, that you're going to unconditionally love yourself. I think that is the power seat for Leos going forward. Now, this squares off with Saturn in Pisces, which is trusting yourself. The new spiritual story is Leos trust themselves. And I talked about this last week in last week's horoscopes. A lot of times Leos lost trust in themselves because of who they were intimate with, who they let in that betrayed them, who they didn't let in, that they were sorry they let that person go. They cut people loose when they really wanted that person in their life. So you ended up losing trust in yourself and your old story, your old karmic story. But now that you love yourself unconditionally, you can trust yourself unconditionally. So I think the new story for Leos is they love themselves unconditionally, they trust themselves, and now they're in the seat of power when it comes to daily life. It's going to be very powerful. And Leos, we need you with Pluto and Aquarius. It's going to oppose your sun. You are going to have to shine like you have never shined before, starting January 20th and 21st. Virgos, we talked about this last week. It's now time to adopt an attitude and a mindset for success. Okay. So this is going to be boundaries around what is the right attitude and what is the wrong attitude. What are the correct plans? What are the wrong plans? That's what the boundaries in Scorpio is. You are cutting the cords, the negative thinking. Your weed is the way you think about yourself. That's what contaminates your soul garden, is that you think poor thoughts about yourself and it chokes the life out of what you're trying to grow. So it's a big new strategy for ideas. It's a big new strategy for how to think about life. It's basically a fresh attitude on life. That's what the new day is for you. That's the new deal. This puts you in a new seat of power when it comes to love, personal dreams, and children. So you'll be able to claim your power in love, claim your power in creativity, claim your power in manifesting personal dreams, because your attitude is on the right attitude. Okay. And by the way, gratitude is the attitude of receiving. So you can do no wrong if you're grateful in that mindset. Just a little hint about a little sprinkle of putting in that mindset. So you'll be standing in the seat of power when it comes to love and personal dreams. That's really important. Hold that thought for a moment. The new story with yourself is actually in how you feel about yourself. I feel like a loser. I feel this. I feel abandoned. I feel so, Virgos are always telling you the story of how life has been and how they've emotionally have not been treated well. They've been mistreated and all that stuff. And you know what? It's true. It's absolutely true, but it's based on your karma. It's not the story you're born to live. So it's time for a new story about how you feel about yourself. It's time for a blank slate. Get out a paper and a new scroll and write a new story about how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself has to be wonderful, terrific, optimistic, positive, not doubting yourself. So a new script around how you feel about yourself. This, by the way, squares off with your karmic news story, which is a new relationship with yourself, a new deal with yourself. So Virgos are getting basically a reboot of their inner life. They've got a new attitude. They're in the seat of their power when it comes to love and creativity. They're now telling themselves a story that they feel great about themselves instead of feeling lousy about themselves. And it's a new day for how they relate to themselves. They're getting me read. That's my story for your marriage to yourself. They're getting me read to themselves in a new way. And by the way, Virgos keep coming back at me with I keep seeing comments about the fact that I'm telling you have you have love coming. You do have love coming if you adopt what I'm telling you right now. A new story about how you feel, a new deal with the way you treat yourself. But I don't believe any Virgo is going to go without unless they choose to, starting in 2024. Just saying, put myself on the record for that. Libras. Libras are writing a new story around what it is that they can manifest or not manifest. It's time to emotionally protect what you intend to manifest. It's time to hold space for your personal dreams, your abundance, your ability to create more than you are, your ability to create something as an idea into material reality. It's new. It's cutting all the losses and focusing on what is profitable. So it's about protecting the profitable sectors of your life and cutting the lost investments in your life. And by the way, those lost investments include people, relationships, situations, organizations, whatever. So protecting what will make you abundant, cutting what is making you poor. That is the new Scorpio transformation that's happening. What that does is put you into a new seat of power when it comes to your home, family, and foundation. It's a new seat of power about how you feel about life, and that you're going to feel grounded and you're going to feel cared for when you have all these clarities of what you're going to invest in and what you're going to cut from your spending and your investment. So really, Libra is feeling finally into a sacred emotional security that they've probably never had in their life. That's their power, that the Libras are unwavered in their emotional feelings of themselves. The new story you tell yourself is literally the story you tell yourself. So for Libras, the story you tell yourself is literally that inner dialogue. Whatever you are saying when something happens, when you see something disappointing, what do you say? When you see a negative comment on your post on Twitter, what do you say? When you see people not liking your Instagram, what do you say? I know I'm going to social media, but I'm just using external examples. What is that voice saying inside of you? That voice has to have a new attitude, a new motive, a new story. So it's time to have a new story in your head about how you talk to yourself. That's the new story with the sun moving into Sagittarius. This has to square off with giving yourself a second chance of how you live in the moment. So your new spiritual story is your life. I don't know what your life is like now, but give it a big kiss and say goodbye. The way you work, the way you live, how you live in the moment, it's all over, Libra. You're about to have an entirely new life that is born if you adopt a new story in your self-talk, as I mentioned. And as I said, for Libras, you're going to be in a new seat of power emotionally as well if you be clear on what to invest in and you cut your losses. All right, we're going to do a little drink here. Kathleen asks, how do stories go viral? By law of attraction. Scorpios are now drawing boundaries around performance, what you will do, what you won't do. So you are sort of honing in on a new character that is being born. You've been working on this character for quite a long time, Scorpio, but this is the pinnacle of it. Happy birthday, by the way, to my Scorpio friends out there. I have so many of you, especially Master Scorpios. So this is about cutting off the parts of your character that you don't like. Cutting off doesn't mean blocking. It means no longer feeding. And this is about protecting the parts of your character that you do like. So you are stepping into a new character, a new performance, a new way of being, basically, how you be and what you be. Now, for you, once you cut off and you say, this is who I am and this is who I'm not, this is who I was, the story I was born to, this is the character story I was born to live. So you're basically protecting the character in your novel, the story you're born to live. This puts you into a new seat of power intellectually, okay? Intellectually, which means that you are now going to be in a place in your mind where you are not doubting. You're not going to the ER. When I say ER, I mean Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Like Scorpios can get really down in their mind. Now your mind's gonna be optimistic. You're gonna find that there's a new intellectual power. It also means you're gonna be in a place to spread your good ideas, to spread your knowledge, to share your wisdom. It means you'll be in a place to be an influencer or a speaker or communicator. So by being very clear on who you are and who you're not, those are the two paths, basically. You stand in the seat of power of intellectual prowess, and you become the commanding intellectual force that you have always been, but only now stepping into for good. Now, the story that has to change is your self-worth. I'm not worthy of this, or I was treated that way because I don't deserve it, or I don't believe I deserve it, or I have FOMO. I fear missing out because I'm not good enough, or I feel abandoned by the world, so I feel like I must be worthless. There's a story of worthlessness that's got to be retired. Okay. And it may not be universal worthlessness. It might be worthless at work. Yeah, my partner loves me, but at work they don't. It might be worthless with your kids. It's not universal. Anything I'm talking about is not universal. It's usually segmented into certain areas, but it's time for a new story about what you're worth. It's about a new story, what you're capable of. But give yourself a second chance now. You're capable of so much more now in this new story than you ever have been. Forget the story in the past. The investments didn't work out. They weren't meant to work out. It's meant to work out now. I'm being honest and sincere, and I know you're a BS detector. You know I'm not BSing you right now. So this is the moment where it's going to work out. And it wasn't meant to work out until now. Now what happens is this squares off with a new spiritual story of self-love, okay? This new spiritual story is Scorpios love themselves first, and that's important. Love yourself first, okay? Scorpios love others first, and then they get bitter that other people didn't love them first. Like, hey, I loved you first. Why aren't you loving me first? And that's not the way the universe works. You were born first, then you met them. So the new spiritual story is you know what you're worth and you love yourself. That's the new story of Scorpio. You know what you're worth and you love yourself. And this gives you a new seat of power with your intellectual prowess. Now you are proud. You know it. You can own it. Your mind won't argue with you. I'm looking forward to the Scorpios coming into their power because I'm very curious what Scorpio is going to do in the new age. Y'all don't put up with any BS and the world is full of it. So once a Scorpio is not doubting anymore, oh, hell hath no, like what's that quote? Yeah, no, watch out is all I'll say. Sagittariuses, happy early birthday, Sagittariuses. I love Sagittarius. You guys are so much fun. Now, your new boundary structure is around your faith. So it's time to have faith in yourself, faith in your life, faith in God, faith in your karma. You haven't been, you aren't a joke. You're not a cosmic joke. I know you love to tell jokes, but you're not a joke. It's basically a new boundary around your relationship to God and heaven. This could be you finding God. This could you be forgiving God. Like I forgive you for letting me down. I forgive you not being there in a certain time. But the old story had a certain faith in life. Maybe you question your faith. The new Sagittarius story has rock solid faith. Okay. So there is a new faith and you're going to protect that faith. And that's how you change your whole life. So get your boundaries around faith correct and everything else will propagate in your life if your faith boundaries are correct. Now, this puts you into a new seat of power to manifest, to make money, to manifest abundance, to bring things you never had before. Once you have faith, you are unstoppable. Forget the charisma and the funniness and the worldliness and the personality. You know you're worth it. And I think, what the astrology is saying is the reason why Sagittarius question if they're worth it is because they question their faith. So get bulletproof faith, you'll have bulletproof finances is what the astrology is saying. Now, the new story you have to tell yourself is in self-treatment. What you deserve, how you deserve to be treated. I know a lot of Sagittarius that put themselves down as a joke. They're like, and it's funny, it's self-deprecating humor. Yeah. But you tell yourself that too many times, you start to believe it, or at least worsely, the world does. So it's time for a new way to respond to yourself, a new story in how to respond to yourself. Maybe to say good job, maybe to pat yourself on the back, maybe to reward yourself, maybe to be, faithful to yourself. But it's time for a new story about how you treat yourself. And that could play out anywhere in your life, how you treat yourself in love, how you treat yourself in jobs, how you treat yourself, in hobbies. But it's a new story of how to treat yourself. You deserve to be treated differently in this new story than you treated yourself in the past. And by the way, that's going to lead to a new character. We'll talk about that next week. But for now, it's about how you treat yourself. And yes, compassion could be one of the things that are really necessary to be compassionate to yourself. Maybe the story was you weren't compassionate to yourself because you're trying to punish yourself. Now, what this does is this creates a new spiritual story with how you feel about yourself. So Sagittarius are really set up here for a phenomenal change. If you start treating yourself the way you deserve to be treated, then you start feeling good about yourself. And once you feel good about yourself, you can keep that bright, optimistic, joyful, wise, spontaneous personality that we all love and enjoy, always flickering like a star and standing back in the seat of power of being able to manifest. So remember, it all starts with changing your boundaries around faith. And in Sagittarius's case, that faith leads to money. It leads to new self-treatment. It leads to feeling great about yourself. Capricorns. Capricorns are creating new emotional boundaries around their social success and reputation. What is it that you want in the world? What is it that you don't want in the world? Now, Capricorns tend to want everything, in the world. That's the problem. And God is saying, focus on what your heart wants. You should only go after what your heart wants. You should let go of the things your heart does not want. And this is a time where you're like, if you're kind of gray, cut it. Cut that excess right now. I wouldn't go after any gray. I'd only go after the white, and I would cut the gray and I would cut the dark. So go very focused on who you are in the world, who you're not in the world. You don't do windows, but you do dishes. You are for hire, but you're not for rent, like whatever. Like create those rules and boundaries of who you are and who you're not in the world. And that sets up the boundaries for everything else. This is sort of like coming up with your logo or coming up with your campaign of who you are and who you're not. Now, what this does is this puts you into a new seat of power for your character. Okay. And by the way, I know a lot of Capricorns who know what they are in life, but they haven't pulled the cord. They haven't signed the contract. They haven't gone through with the actual change. So it may be that you know, but you just haven't done it. Okay. That's the other thing, and pulled and pushed for it to happen. But what this does is allow you to blossom into your character. So, Pluto's been transforming your life since 2008. And what the universe is saying is the final touches of this Pluto and Capricorn transit is that you cut the cords and you say who you are in the world and who you aren't in the world. And that's the finishing touches to Pluto and Capricorn, according to the astrology right now. Now, where the story changes is inner faith. And by the way, I know faith is tough for Capricorns because with Pluto in your sign, you've gotten knocked down a lot by the universe. That's because you were being humbled by Pluto. It's tough. It's a meat tenderizer. It has no mercy and it just forces you to change. So maybe you've lost faith. Maybe you lost faith in yourself. Maybe you question faith in yourself. Maybe you don't have 100% faith or unconditional faith. Maybe it's conditional. So it's time for a new story about having faith in yourself and why, or a new chapter of now having faith in yourself. So either works, but this is about your faith in yourself. That's the new story. What this does is this sparkles a new attitude about yourself. So Saturn in Pisces squares with new faith. As you clean the faith in yourself, you now can talk to yourself in a new light. You can now think about yourself in a new light. You're now karma-free in your thinking. You now get rid of those virus thoughts that made you feel bad or made you feel guilty. So new faith brings new self-talk, new inner dialogue, and you stand in the seat of your power of this new character that you've been working on since 2008. I'm excited to see the new Capricorn goats hanging out on the mountain. Okay. Aquarius. Aquariuses are now drawing boundaries over what their career and legacy will be. So Aquarius, it's time to aim for what you want to be when you grow up. Don't worry. I know you'll never grow up. I'm just kidding. But what I mean by that is you're childlike at heart. Okay. You have the Leo ruling your inner child, ruling your marriage to yourself. But it is time to go ahead and say, I want to be the next ... So it's time to say, it's time to claim your place in the age of Aquarius. Who are you in the age of Aquarius? Are you a wizard? Are you a card dealer? Are you a shark on Shark Tank? What are you? It's time to be, what are you and what are you not? And don't be afraid about what it is. And you don't have to send out a press release or give us a memo. You just have to be very clear on what you are and what you're not. For some Aquariuses, this is about what your retirement will be and how you will slow down and how you will parachute. But I doubt those Aquariuses are watching right now just due to that nature of that Aquarius. But it's now time to be very clear about your leadership, whether or not you're going to parent, what your legacy will be. Get very clear and sharp on those details. Now, what this does is this gives you a new seat of power with God. So once you are clear on what you will be or not be, then suddenly, oh, that's angels singing, you will feel a new connection to God. You will feel your place in the universe. You will know your place on earth. It's going to clarify any cloudiness you have about whether or not the universe is on your side. The universe has always been on your side, by the way. It's you who wasn't on your side. We'll talk about that another time. But be clear on what you are and what you're not. And by being clear on what you're not, then suddenly, you understand your place in God's kingdom or queendom. Now, where the story changes is in where you belong with yourself. The old Aquarius used to be like, I don't know, I'm kind of weird. I'm kind of kooky. I don't know if I'm worthy. I don't know if I want to share that with people. I don't know. You haven't necessarily been your own friend. Your old story was that you weren't necessarily your friend, or your story was you're a friend to you, but the whole world doesn't like you. So ironically, your old story was a misfit, that you didn't fit in the universe. You didn't fit in society. That's the old story of Aquariuses. This is the age of Aquarius. You are what we build the earth around. So you're moving from being the quirky one that people look at weird at the party to the life of the party. And I know that makes you very uncomfortable to hear, but just wait a few minutes. It's going to happen. It's what your heart really wants, but you don't accept it. So the inner story of your friendship to yourself is what's going to change. What's also going to change is your worthiness. The new story is you have a worth. You are valuable. We need you. You know what you're going to be in the world. God's on your side. You're on your side, and damn it, you're worth it. So the final leg of that with Saturn and Pisces is once you are your own friend, you suddenly feel worth it. You feel worthy of success. You feel worthy of a raise. You feel worthy of being treated well. You're going to actually stand up. So I think out of all 12 signs, Aquas are the ones to watch. I wish I could put it like a webcam and just watch you live. I have a couple of you that I'm watching, so we'll see. But I'm very excited for this to see what happens on the other side of this new story of being your own friend. And then lastly, the Pisces. Pisces, you've come a long way, my friend, and I mean over lifetimes. Any Pisces born right now is clearing out a shitload of karma. I mean, the biggest load there is. That's because of Neptune in your sign. That's because of Saturn in your sign. That's because your sign's about karma. This also includes Pisces risings, by the way. You don't get out of this. So what you're doing now is, now that you have come to heal and see the light, see the Lord, I see the light, it's now time to ask yourself, why am I here again? What's my purpose? What is meaningful to me? Because everything up until now has been healing and facing karma. Now it's time to really be clear, okay, this is my purpose. And up until now, that's been clouded with lessons and clouded with issues and clouded with karma. But now if you get really clear on what your purpose is, which is defined by the heart, by the way, your heart knows your purpose, that clarity of the purpose puts you in your seat of power. Where's your seat of power? In society. Pisces have a powerful role in the age of Aquarius. In fact, Pisces must help us finish the age of Pisces. So you could say your purpose is to be a leader to finish the age of Pisces, and that will give you a seat of power in society. So Pisces feel like you don't get what you deserve in the world. The planets are saying, well, you're not clear on what you're here to do. That's why the world's not clear on how to treat you. So as soon as you're clear on what you're here to do, the world knows exactly what to treat you. And by the way, people don't believe, let them go. You're not here to be loved by everybody. You're a Pisces, not the second coming. Okay. But the point is that once you know what you're here for, then people can go or come. And now it's no longer a weird thing. The new story to tell yourself is around self-discipline. You're not lazy. You're not a loser. You're not a failure. You don't pull out. The truth is that your self-discipline is all based on getting through those karmic stories. It wasn't based on what you're here to do. So your story of your career, your legacy, whether you've been a success or a failure, that old story is based on the karma you were born to. That's not based on what you came to do. That's not based on your purpose. So it's time to tell you a new story, a new success story of your decisions, a new success story of being disciplined, a new success story of your potential. Time for a new success story of being disciplined and ready to do it. Okay. Now what this does is this opens the door to finally treat yourself on a new level. And this is the birth of the age of Pisces. This is the birth of the age of Aquarius Pisces. So you're going to have a new way of treating yourself. Maybe not giving in and being strong and holding out. Maybe not making yourself feel guilty. Maybe not throwing yourself under the bus. So it's a new self-treatment that comes from a new story about what you're capable of or not capable of, or a new story about what your treatment is. And this is all, of course, coming into the new seat of power, which is you finding your place in the world and where you truly believe. Amen. Hallelujah. And so it is. Love me, my Pisces. Well, that might have seemed like a preach, but that was the teach, my friend. It is real. It is the real deal. We are moving into the new age. But now it's time to talk about some esoterics on a very high level. Keep streaming. We're going to have a little intermission here. And when I come back, we will have right in front of your very eyes, best-selling author, intuitive channel, vibrational healer, and energy medicine teacher, Katie Sutton. Keep streaming. This Zodiac Weather is from Saturday, November 18th to Friday, November 24th, 2023. Looking at your weekend moodcast, over the weekend you'll be channeling and talking to higher self to figure out whether or not you should jump. And then on Sunday, it's a commitment to transform your life. Let's drill down. On Saturday, it's sunny and praying. Step 25 means that Neptune rules this day. With the moon in Aquarius, you're also feeling the vibrations of the other side. It's time really to pray in and ask God, universe, is this the right move for me? The sun conjuncts Mars, meaning you're ready to make that move. And Mercury squares Juno, which means it has to be in synergy. On Sunday, it's sunny and belonging. Step 26 means Saturn rules this day. You will have the backbone and the determination to commit to changing your life forever. You could say the drum is beating for freedom, and with the moon in Aquarius, you are feeling that call to innovation. Moving on to the week ahead with our 5-day zodiac mood forecast. The week ahead promises to wrap up the sun in Scorpio, which probably means you are kickstarting some sort of transformation of your life. Then, over Thanksgiving holiday, the sun moves into Sagittarius, which begs the question, what should I believe about myself? Let's take a look. On Monday, it's sunny and idealistic. Step 27 means Mars rules the day. You'll have the gumption and the ego courage to execute the big changes in your life. As a result, the plot will thicken. The moon in Pisces means you're emotionally feeling that this is a karmic turnaround, and with the sun trining Pluto, it also indicates a major shift in your world power. On Tuesday, it's sunny and sensing. Step 28 means Earth rules this day, so you are holding love and sacred ground to manifest the changes you have begun in the last 24 hours. This will change the top of the pyramid. And with Mars now sextiling Pluto, that shift of power becomes real. On Wednesday, it's sunny and transforming. Step 29 means Chiron rules this day. You may be tested on boundaries everywhere and anything you learned in the Scorpio transit. Later that day, the sun enters into Sagittarius and Venus opposes Chiron, which means you will be opening up to the fact that you are trying something you once failed at. On Thursday, it's sunny and excitable. Step 0 means Pluto rules the day. This is you drawing a line between the old story you used to tell yourself and the new story you now believe in. You are closing down that old story, and with the sun scoring Saturn, you can't help but relate it to the fact that your karma is changing. And then on Friday, it's sunny and activated. Step 1 means love rules the day, or you could say the sun rules the day. You'll be theorizing about self-love on Black Friday and maybe feeling tested by the changes. And with Mars now entering into Sagittarius, you're ready to push forward that new narrative.
Having trouble with indecisiveness, stress, or managing your feelings? If yes, you're looking for Serious Joy. Serious Joy is a predictive astrology service that is so amazingly accurate, you have to try it to believe it. Just enter the date, location, and time of your birth, and Serious Joy will calculate your life story using our proprietary step astrology algorithm. It's that easy. Serious Joy is your guardian sensei in the cloud. Every alert message is custom written for you. You are coached into your strengths and warned about weaknesses ahead of time. And say goodbye to surprise mood swings. If it sounds too good to be true, then try it for yourself. If you're not convinced Serious Joy knows you better than you know yourself, cancel anytime. Get serious about your joy. Visit SeriousJoy.com.
Hello and welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers and innovative influencers of our time. And here at the Mingle, we take a special interest in pioneering light workers, and today's guest is a person that has taken upon herself to open up and pioneer at least 2 schools, from what I can tell, of enlightenment. Katie Sutton is a best-selling author, an intuitive channel, a vibrational healer, and energy medicine teacher. She's also the founder of Zen Within Academy and the New Earth Now School, an online and in-person learning community to help guide people on their personal path to wholeness and fulfillment. Zen Within Academy facilitates invaluable access to a community of like-minded individuals who understand each other's struggles and encourage one another in their healing and spiritual transformation. She and her husband, Josh Fote, lead retreats and workshops around the world, sharing Katie's healing modality of 12th dimensional healing to help people reclaim what she calls their Zen within. Please send waves of love and gratitude to welcome our guest tonight, Step 0, Taurus, Katie Sutton. Hello, Katie.
Hi, Christopher. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. And I'm always happy to have another Taurus on. You know, I speak full Taurus, moo, 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 moo.
We got to stick together, us Tauruses.
We have to. And now's really a powerful time for us. I mean, I'm going off script here, but Jupiter's in our sign. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you follow astrology yourself?
I do. My brain works totally different than yours does. And so I follow it in that there's always an astrological confirmation when the energies come in. And so I track that, but I am not somebody that can look at a chart and understand all the ins and outs. I can't hold that in my brain, but I definitely follow astrology. And I certainly look at things when I'm planning things for my own life as well.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. I mean, with all due respect, I think your brain is on another planet. And I mean that with total respect. Like, you're a step 0 Taurus, which means that you are open to other realms automatically. So you can open up the ability to open up. Did you know that Sirius conjoins your ascendant, the star Sirius?
Yeah, and my star family is from Sirius, and a lot of my work in this lifetime is balancing the masculine and feminine, which is a very Sirian kind of energy. So absolutely. Yeah, that's a big deal for me in this lifetime.
I'm from Sirius too. Yeah. Seriously. But no, and that's a whole nother story. We won't go down my path, but that's why I created Serious Joy, is because it was like, basically some old business on the other planet. And your moon's in Capricorn that is almost in conjunction to Jupiter, which means that your emotions can really attune to frequencies and go just about anywhere in the galaxy.
Yes.
So
I feel it.
you are very eclectic and very interesting. And I think, looking at your work, and I'm watching videos with you, and I've been seeing your academy, it seems like you're teaching ascension, if I am not mistaken. I mean, that's the word we would use here. Would you classify it that way?
I am teaching people how to manage the ascension process that is already happening on this planet, whether they like it or not.
Okay.
That's how I look at it, because I believe that we're all going through this process, and my work is with the empaths and the sensitives and those that maybe are the seekers and want to be more proactive in their ascension process rather than reactive.
Yes.
Because I think we're all on a train that's headed towards the 5th dimensional frequency and higher. And it's just a matter of, do you want to be on the train and kind of co-piloting or co-driving the train, or do you want to be at the back of the caboose, right? And so I tend to work with people that want to be more in the driver's seat of their healing process and their ascension process, and just learn how to navigate all that energy that comes up as we're healing and working through trauma and inner child stuff and all the things that happen on the ascension pathway.
So that's an interesting perspective I've yet to hear. You're saying we're on a school bus and we're all heading there, like it or not. So the only way off the bus would be to reincarnate, basically.
Yeah. To take an exit off the highway, right? And decide whether or not we want to come back into a body. And so I think we're all headed there. And that's not, like you said, a popular opinion in the spiritual circles. There's this feeling of like, some are going to get there and some aren't. Yeah. And I believe that we're all headed in that direction. Will every soul decide to complete that cycle? It's up to them, right? I definitely see that there are a lot of souls leaving the planet because they are not really built for this. This is a hard time in Earth's history, right? As we're moving forward on this ascension process, and not everybody's built for it. And so there's a lot of souls that are taking an exit. And then I know that there are a lot of souls that are coming right back in, right? Because they're like, I can't ascend in the circumstances that I have in my life right now. So I'm going to make a quick exit, and then I'm going to come right back in with better circumstance because I actually want to be here. So I think we've got that going on too.
That was kind of my next question, is like, we obviously have a lot of death happening right now, and people see that as sorrowful, but I kind of feel like all death is calculated, even though it could be a tragic way of going. Yeah. And a really sad way of going. But it's like, in past lives, like as pilgrims, we nearly starved to death, or we went going for gold, or we went through famine and all these like really horrible, atrocious things. So we're sort of used to getting the shift kicked out of us anyways. But now it's sort of inward and energetic. Whereas past lives was about, will I eat or not? Now it's just like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable in my body or in my own skin kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all going through this kind of inner ascension process, this inner turmoil, and some of us are handling it in this way of going down the spiritual path and doing this active work, and some people are just experiencing it in their day-to-day life, and they're kind of getting sucked into everything that's happening in the world and being in that sorrowful place and working through that, with the world stage events. And so it's just a choice. It's like, what timeline are you aligning with? What vibration are you aligning with? How do you want to go about this process? And I think we have infinite choice as humans. I think we have infinite free will to a degree. and we get to decide, how we want to move through this process. And it's more about being in the driver's seat and being empowered as we make those choices that I think is really going to matter, especially as we move into next year. I feel like we're going to have a big shift next year energetically in terms of what's going to open up in terms of possibilities for us with everything that we want to anchor in the new earth. And it's going to be important that we actually activate those timelines and make choices, make powerful choices now to set up for what's coming in next year.
I just said that. Were you watching my show? Well, that's a perfect example of
power.
Yes. So this is an example. You feel it out, is what you say. And then the astrology confirms, okay, good. That's what I was feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you are feeling that next year is the big star. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like 2023 is kind of the last of the shift, right? In terms of working through the shift and working through the collective shadow. And I think a lot of us that have been on the spiritual path, maybe our whole lives, or for at least the last 10 years or so since 2012, have felt like we've been carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, and that we've been doing all the energetic work on behalf of the world. And I really felt a tangible shift this year at the beginning of the year that we had to separate from that, because if we kept doing all of the work for the collective, then they weren't going to step in. And so I really feel like next year, those of us that have really been doing our inner work and have been focused on this spiritual path are going to feel a lightening in our load, so to speak. And we're going to feel like there's more space for us to breathe. We're going to see more people coming online and desiring to do their inner work, and we're going to feel more seen. It's going to be safer for us to kind of put ourselves out there and come out of the spiritual closet. And I think there's a lot of amazing possibility. I'm just watching all the different people that I support just step into a new level of empowerment at the end of this year. And I can see what that's opening up for next year. And I'm really excited about it.
Wow, that's exactly what the astrology is saying. Like literally. And, I think what we felt at the beginning of the year was Pluto dip into Aquarius, just to give you a planetary affirmation of, we felt the right to let go and just like, I'm done. Y'all fend for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us light workers we ignored our own stuff for a long time and tried to save the world. So we had that where we realized, wait a second, I got to practice what I preach and do. And by the way, Neptune moved into Pisces in 2012. So astrology says that's when it started to happen too. So again, same exactly. And that's exciting. Now, do you feel like a lot of us have been predicting, people will say to me, oh my God, what's coming up? Even so, someone in the chat, like, oh my God, what's happening next year? Do you get the feel that for those of us who are on the path and just running the light, that there's going to be some big calamity that happens? The Earth's going to have to go through that? Or is that just us projecting the dark ages onto our future?
I like what you just said there, that last piece, because whenever I tune into people that are doing channeling work and they're predicting calamities, I often see that they're tuning into the timelines that are actually falling away. Okay. And I think there are going to be shifts. I think that there are going to be changes. But even if you look at the C word and everything that we experienced over the last few years, right, there was, it was really hard and it was really difficult, but it was really needed, right? That brought a lot of things to the surface. And I imagine there will be stuff with government and stuff with money and all of those things that come to the surface. And even the things that are happening in the Middle East right now, the way we're approaching it as a collective and the way we're looking at it, I think is very different than we have in the past. And so I don't believe that we're going to go through some doom and gloom, terror, fear mongering kind of thing in order to get to these higher timelines. I actually think the new earth is here. And it's actually an individual choice that we have to make to align with that vibration and align with that energy. And, it looks like us pulling out of engaging with some of these systems in the way that we have before, where we give our power away and kind of claiming what it means for us to be in our personal empowerment and claiming that timeline. And we're going to do it from the ground up. From the ground up, right? Because the top down approach, we've been trying that for the last several hundred thousands of years, and it's not working. And so I think it's the individuals doing their inner work and claiming that new earth timeline that's going to shift things.
I can't agree with you more. I feel like for light workers or people on the path, it's going to be like we are dancing and partying while things are falling down.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
And I think the hard part, at least it has been for me in the last year and a half or 2 years, is how do I not be a bleeding heart as I watch all of that, and also continue to have compassion, and also continue to stay connected with what's happening, but not be drug into the density of that. And I feel like we've been tested a lot in how do we hold our vibration. And, we have to be really diligent in how we take care of ourselves and what we align with and what we listen to and who we let in our lives to a certain degree. It doesn't mean that people that are struggling or connected to that timeline and maybe have different views can't be in our life. We just have to meet them, and we have to show them that there's another option, right? Show them that they don't have to align with that fear story. Show them that they can align with love. Show them that they can align with a higher timeline, and really be diligent about holding that vibration so that when we encounter these people, we can meet them with compassion. Because a lot of times when we meet people that have a lot of fear or stuck in that fear story, we get a little angry. And that's just our body and our being saying, hey, there's a boundary that needs to be set here because you don't want to match that frequency. But we don't want to be angry at these people, right? We want to meet them with love, but we have to practice that internally first, right? And how do we love ourselves, and how do we take care of ourselves so we can hold that compassionate space?
I agree. And interestingly enough, I feel like, for one, I feel the one thing you just said, that like watching people suffer, hurting, wanting to rescue them, wanting to come to their rescue, not being willing to put ourselves first. There's like a guilt trip there that kept us hooked onto trying to help other people, and being okay with just being an example and not having to fall into the rhetoric. It seems like the real struggle is the struggle to keep the old world going. That's the struggle that's really happening. We're being told the struggle is to fight for our life. The truth is the old system is fighting for its life. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And in my New Earth Now school, I just completed my foundations course this year, which was like a year-long course. And we went strategically through all of the different systems. We worked with government, we worked with medicine, we worked with finance, we worked with relationships and community. And we worked through all these different places where we were kind of hooked in to those systems that are crumbling, and we pulled our energy back. And we reseated that energy back in ourselves and started visioning what we want to see in the new earth. And so my whole year-long program was about kind of supporting people in getting activated into this energy of choice, right? And what timeline do they want to choose? And I think we've done that work, whether you did it with me or not, like it's happening, right? And some of us are going to be catching up on that, I think, at the end of the year and the beginning of next year. And then we really need to start visioning the future and start coming together, because my work next year is going to be about relationships and teaching people how to work together from a place of wholeness and a place of authenticity, because we have to figure out how to build these things together, right? We can't do it by ourselves, right? The time of the spiritual lone wolf, I think, is coming to a close. We got to start coming together and building the new things, right? And giving alternatives, because the stuff that's falling apart, the timelines that are still there, that are hooked into all those systems, they're only still in existence because people are giving them energy. The moment that we have alternatives and people say, wow, that's amazing, and I want to participate in that, is the moment that we're going to turn away from that energy, and more eyes are going to move to that alternative, and then we won't need this anymore. And I don't think it has to be a scary thing as they fall away, especially if we're building something new at the same time.
Yeah, the landing pad is there. A good example of that is, I think, mass media. Like this year alone, I've noticed like podcasts are like the source of everyone's truth now. Like no one's watching mainstream news very much. CNN, all these others are sort of kind of falling in their popularity. They're sort of looked at as something to the side. And we have this new way of coming together. And I agree. I mean, everything I've been instructed with my higher self to be creating the collaborations. Like, it's time to collab. That's why you're on this show. It's because I'm the same thing. It's like, hey, it's time to like network with the other people who believe in the same thing, form a neural net of consciousness and love and light. And the planets show that too. The South Node in Libra says old associations are falling apart. And Pluto and Aquarius is all about coming together as community. So I agree. And I also think you're right. We have to be retrained, because we're not quite sure like how to work in a team when it's not just capital I.
Yeah.
Like we really don't have that. We're not taught that in school. We're taught survival of the fittest. We're taught like, it's lonely at the top, like all these lone wolf stories that you're talking about. So it's like when I am on a team, well, how does that work exactly?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the way that we come into our power and how we even define power needs to shift in order to facilitate that. I was talking with a client today about, when we're in our true integrity and we align with our integrity and we align with our authenticity, that creates a level of wholeness in our being that is very empowering. And that if we all individually work on that piece, then whatever we create in groups will get easier, because we're not, unity consciousness and co-creation isn't about everybody being the same. We need everybody to bring their unique perspectives. But if I bring that and I'm not really in my power in that, and I've got a whole bunch of baggage and trauma that I'm bringing to that relationship or that partnership, it's going to get in the way of what we're trying to create. And so I think that's why it's so important that we continue to do our inner work so that our relationships can get more fruitful and more co-creative than they have been in the past.
Yeah, more exciting, more intimate, more loving, more enjoyable. I mean, relationships have been nothing but drama for the last 2,000 years,
Yeah. Yeah. When I talk to the 12D beings, or the creator beings, as I call them, about relationships, they always kind of giggle a little bit about how entrenched in the drama and the trauma we get on this planet. And they speak about relationships as being an energy exchange, right? And when there is no more energy to be exchanged, or there's no more growth that is happening, they naturally dissolve. And instead of the way we dissolve relationships on this planet, which doesn't often look like that, right? They have this different viewpoint. And it's helpful for me when I am working with them and meditating with them and channeling them, because they help me to kind of zoom out of whatever's going on in my own relationships. And that's a big part of what I do with people in session too, is kind of zoom out of the drama and the trauma and give them the higher perspective about how the souls are communicating at a higher self level, which kind of brings some neutrality in so that we're not so stuck in the story. Because when we're stuck in the story, the energy can't shift.
Agreed. And interesting enough too about relationships, just comes to mind is like, we've been sort of adrenaline junkies and I think hormone junkies. And to some degree, this is about getting off of certain energetic highs and lows, like redefining what high is, getting high on life. Like high has been, I survived a near death. That was the old high. Now the high is like, is based on neutrality. It's a whole different energy of highs and lows. Now you go into the 12th dimensional beings. That is fascinating to me. I think before we talk about the 12th dimension, do you have a rough, quick guide to the dimensions for us? Have you mapped them all out, or are you just going straight to the 12th floor?
Well, so we're all familiar with 3D.
Yep. Yeah, very.
Right? It's been very challenging for us for many thousands of years to be in that third dimensional frequency. We kind of moved through 4D. Some of us are in a little bit of a limbo there, working out some stuff, some karmic stuff, I think, in 4D. And I believe a lot of us are actually operating when we're in the flow in fifth dimensional frequency. And I think that's where we're headed. Within the next 10 years, I think we're going to be in that zone. Will everybody be there? Probably not, but that doesn't matter. Right. And then once we move beyond 5D, we start making decisions about how long do we want to take our body with us. Right. So when I channel the Pleiadians or talk to the Pleiadians, they might be in a ninth dimensional frequency and they have the option if they want to be in a body or not. So think about, as you rise up in dimensions, you're getting closer and closer to source, right? You're getting closer and closer to the original energy, the creator energy, source energy, love. And so it's not that it's a hierarchy that one is better than the other. My guides are always really quick to mention that to me, but it's kind of a lens through which you see the world and how you relate to the world as you move through those dimensional frequencies. And we get less and less duality, less and less polarity as we move towards the 12th dimensional frequency. And so I really think that right now we're working as a collective on learning how to operate in 5D, which looks like instant manifestation and things flowing a little bit easier, and a balance between our divine masculine and feminine energy, our being and our doing energy. But we're starting to channel 11D and 12D energies, because when we get a taste of that, it helps us to remember where we came from. And it helps us to connect with our higher self and kind of really why we came here. But we can't live in those higher frequencies because it's too hard for most of our nervous systems to channel that much light. And so for me, when the 12D beings came in, it was like, oh my God, my nervous system, I have to work on my nervous system, which was already jacked up from my childhood. And so that's been a big thing for me this year, is working on being in my body, so that as we start channeling more of these higher lights, because the equinox is a good example. There was so much 12D unity consciousness light coming in that it kind of blew my circuits out a little bit. And so I think we're having these portals and these really big eclipses and these events, and solstice is coming, and we've got 12/12 coming. These are times where that unity consciousness, that 12D frequency, just kind of bathes the planet, and we feel it and we expand, and then we immediately contract into those lower dimensions that are no longer necessary, so that we can purge them. And so we're constantly going up and down this dimensional frequency scale all day long, every day, throughout the month, throughout these portals. It's a constant kind of elevator ride. And that might be why some people feel a little seasick sometimes.
There's been a lot of sickness in the last 3 or 4 weeks in particular from my viewers, myself, people thinking they have food poisoning. I thought I had food poisoning like 3 times. And I think it was just lower frequency that I was getting out.
Nausea is all about releasing fear, right? When we get nauseous, it's a release of fear. And right after the eclipse, it was like this massive fear purge started happening. And then when everything kicked up in the Middle East, I saw that come online really strongly, right? We're clearing all these lifetimes where we didn't make it, where we kind of annihilated each other. We're purging all of that energy. So everybody looks forward to these amazing portals. And I do too, because they feel so good. But then I always know that right after, we've got this kind of purge of energy, and it can make some people feel a little bit like they have whiplash, right? Or it can sometimes make people feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going backwards. And what I always say is, you're not going backwards, you're going forward still. We're always going forwards. We're always rising in consciousness. But there are things that are not in alignment anymore, and you can't keep them in your body and your being and channel this higher frequency that you've now hit as your new baseline. And it has to be purged, right? And so when people come to me and they're struggling physically or emotionally, I always look at, okay, well, what are you really trying to clear right now? And what are you trying to bring in? And where are the roadblocks, right? Where's the dissonant frequency in your field?
Let's go back down the scale a little bit, just to be kind of clear. How would you define the 4th dimension? That's the most confusing to me. What the hell is the 4th dimension? 5th, I think I get. I think 5th is like when I'm, like, I just had a meeting, we were being creative and we were brainstorming. I was just like, we're laughing like kids and time flew by. I kind of feel like that's the 5th dimension, when I'm just like, when you've been laughing to your guts hurt kind of energy. But what's 4? What's in the middle of 3 and 5? How do we?
It's kind of like a limbo void integration space.
Okay.
Like,
That's actually,
it's like an in-between. I liken it to the half steps in the chakra system. Like, we're all familiar with the heart chakra and the throat chakra, but there's a chakra in the middle right there, the thymus chakra. It's a half step, right? And so some of these dimensional planes are half steps, and we're not going to spend as much time there as we raise in frequency. They're just like training grounds. They're places where we're trying things on. They're places where we're integrating things. That's how I look at 4D. So it's not important, but it's not where we're headed or where we want to be spending a lot of our time necessarily.
Okay, that's the best definition I've ever heard. So it's almost like in music, like a C sharp or a B flat. Like, it's just a little off pitch to maybe make you realize you've got to go up or down.
Right. It's kind of like a sensory experience, so that you can decide, oh, I want to get back in the flow, or actually, which can be valuable sometimes, I need to drop back down into 3D and do some work. Right. Which maybe isn't going to be pleasant, but I kind of need to drop back down into the muck and do some shadow work and integrate some parts, so that when I go back up that scale, right, I can spend more time, longer periods of time in 5th dimensional frequency, and I can sit in that flow more easily.
That makes total sense. And in my system, the step system, 4 is the door, or Uranus, which is the realm between realms, sort of the doorway that opens to between. So that makes I just had a brain blow there. Thank you so much, fellow Taurus. How would you describe 5D?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we go into our flow state, so when I am channeling and I'm bringing information in, or when I'm creating, or when I am connecting in conversation like I am right now, this is 5D, right?
Okay.
There's this feeling of co-creation. There's this feeling of balance. There's this feeling of harmony. Now, I can still get triggered when I'm here, right? But there's an ability for my system to kind of zoom out and be able to see beyond the trigger and be in the observer mode. That's what 5D feels like for me. And, there were, I think, a couple of years ago, we would spend very small pockets of time here. But what I'm noticing is that the amount of time we can exist in that frequency just keeps extending, right? And if we're really focused on our self-care and we're really focused on doing our energetic hygiene and taking care of ourselves, I think we can continue to extend those periods of time. And I think as we move into 2024, even though we're not going to be able to be in it all the time because it hasn't landed to a great enough degree on this planet where enough people are there so it's easy, I do think as we move into next year, it's going to be easier to hold that vibration.
Amen. And I love 5D. I think I know exactly what it is now. Now that you've said it, because there's been discussion on the internet. It's like, are we going to evaporate, or am I going to disappear?
No.
Will I see people that aren't seen on Earth? And it's like, no, 5D is actually is like high resolution 3D, Zen.
Yeah. And I think, when I channel and I ask the guides about this process that we're going through, they always say to me, Katie, you all are doing this on Earth in a way that it's never been done in our planetary system or our universe before. And what they mean by that is we're actually taking our bodies with us further up that hierarchical, or I shouldn't say hierarchy, but further up that dimensional chain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's challenging though, right? Because our bodies are going to need to be more light than body at some point. And so all these changes that we're going to go through in our medical system that are already happening because of what happened a couple of years ago, and all these changes that we're seeing in how we are being guided to care for our body and our food and all these things that need to shift are happening because we need to be healthier, but also because we're taking our bodies with us as we move up in dimensional frequency. And I think we're going to actually hold on to our bodies a lot longer than our star brothers and sisters did. And they always say to me, like, we're the ones that are here on Earth right now are the only ones that are suited for this mission, right? Like, we're the brave ones. So my star family is still on Sirius and in other places. And I miss them, right? When I connect with them, I feel like I'm at home, but they're like, Katie, you're the only one that was brave enough to go and do all this work and be in this really challenging thing of being in a body and doing that work at the same time.
It's literally like, because of the timing of this week, it's literally like getting on the Mayflower and starting completely over, trying to farm and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't think as we shift into 5D that we're going to go back to, like, some people think we're going to go back to tribal living and, just living on the land and living in community. And I do think that that's going to happen more and more, but it's not going to be because the world is coming to an end and it's the only way that we can live. There's going to be more choice, like this idea of free will and being separated from all this karmic crap that we have carried for so many lifetimes, I think is just going to continue to amplify. And I love what you said earlier about karma and that kind of idea of unmet desire and unmet destiny. And what I see is that we've been on this karmic loop for so many generations within this 3D model. And now we've got the opportunity, if we want, to just exit the loop and say, I understand that I've done that as a soul, but I don't want to keep doing that. I don't want to keep being in these looping patterns. I'm going to step into my power and I'm going to bring my template of what being in my power looks like and what being in my joy looks like. And I'm going to start to live that. And I'm not really going to care if everybody around me gets it or not. And that's what I see happening with like the 20 somethings that I support. Like, I love working with them. They get a bad rap that they're very entitled, but they're here bringing a new vibration onto this planet because they're not saying yes to the corporate structures and all the things that we kind of, my generation, got stuck in, with the 9 to 5, and then that we're having to exit out of now.
Yeah. Which that virus 2 years ago sort of broke that pattern once everyone went home from work and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to work 40 hours a week. Like, it was a wake up call. We got off the treadmill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think it's going to be interesting to see, as the next generation after them comes into the workforce and they're really not having it. I mean, I'm supporting people that are trying to have babies right now, and the babies that come in that talk to me, like maybe they're going through in vitro and the baby comes in and talks to me, is like, oh yeah, I'm not coming because mom and dad haven't finished doing their personal work, right? Like they're not wanting to come in to be born to families where there's all this drama and trauma that hasn't been worked out, because they have too much work to do to build into that Aquarian age, right? And they don't want to bring all that baggage. They're like, they need to deal with that before I get here. So always, whenever somebody shows up and they're having fertility issues, I'm working with them on, okay, let's get you in alignment with the baby being that wants to be born through you, and make sure that some of these patterns have been cleared so that they kind of have more of a clean slate when they come into a body.
That's a brilliant insight. I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of infertility or fear of fertility. And yes, there are medical reasons for that and chemicals in the water and all that sort of stuff. But most of the time, I mean, birth is miraculous. Perhaps the baby is not liking the comfort of that crib.
Yeah.
It's not time yet, or you're not ready yet. It's nothing wrong with you. It's that things aren't yet aligned. And to take that guilt off of our shoulders for not being fertile or not being enough, that makes total sense. Yeah. Now so do you feel Ascension is the next, like Ascended Masters? I notice you speak to Ascended Masters on your site. You have a course around Ascended Masters. Tell us, the audience, what an Ascended Master is.
So these are beings like Buddha. Every time I say them, they start coming in. So
yeah, well, let them
Buddha,
in, bring them on board. Do we have
Buddha,
a seat?
Mother Mary, Archangel Michael, I consider Ascended Master. These are the beings that we think of that when we bring them forward, we're bringing them forward with honor and reverence, with a desire to connect with an energy that is bigger than us. And, there are so many Ascended Masters. And what I kind of believe is that in and of itself is an energy, right?
Yeah.
In and of itself is a dimension. And, for a long time, I would always be bringing in the angels and always be bringing in the Ascended Masters. And what they've kind of asked me to do this year is to step forward a little bit more. And they're still working with me, but I'm not always saying, hey, this is who's speaking. Because what I think we're all being invited to do now is kind of find that inner master, right? And that inner guru, and activate into unity consciousness within us so that we can connect to those higher planes at an individual level too. And so in my courses, I'm always teaching people like this is the realm. This is how you connect with that realm. But remember that same energy that you're connecting with also exists inside of you. And if you're looking at them and putting them on a pedestal, your ability to channel them and connect with them is going to be really limited, because they always tell me, like, there's no hierarchy here, Katie. Like, we're all one, right? We're all working together. We just have a slightly different perspective than you do. And that's why you want to call on us. You want to call on us when you feel like you need support, when you need to expand in your energy field and you're getting contracted. It's not necessarily that we're here to preach to you or tell you the right way to do things, because we all are also working through our own egos. Theirs just looks very different than ours here on this planet, right? So I guess my view on angels and Ascended Masters might be a little bit different than some, in that I think that we're all just connecting into that frequency. Like I call it the esoteric internet, right? And it's kind of, what are you Googling in that moment? What vibration are you trying to connect with? And when I'm in session with people, there will be certain masters or beings that step forward that want to help that person with a particular trauma or a particular thing. And I won't always say to the person, oh, this is Yeshua coming forward, because then the person goes right into their stories about that being, right? So it's more about bringing the energy forward and trusting what I align with in my heart, that it's going to bring forward whatever is most needed to be said in that moment.
Got you. Yeah, I'm always like, Yeshua wants to talk to me. Like it becomes, I become fangirl in that moment. Like I go into that story. It's kind of funny,
that happens for a lot of people.
Yeah, me too. Anytime I hear Ascended Masters coming through, I'm always like so grateful. But if you put it from their perspective, it's like they're watching a little old lady try to cross the street, or a little puppy caught in traffic, and their heart's just going, oh, they just want to help us through that little moment. Really, it's to them, it's just being kind. And to us, we look at it as a miracle.
Yeah. And, I love the idea of miracles. I think that's something that we need more of in our culture, to believe in the idea of that. But I also don't necessarily believe that anybody, whether it's a star being or ascended master, anybody is coming to save us. Like, I think we are here to save ourselves and to do our inner work so that we can receive more of that support. We can receive more of those connections, even in contact work with, extraterrestrials. It's all about being in the love vibration. Once we get into that place in our heart, we can connect with any being that we want. Right. So, but if we haven't been able to do that inner work to love ourselves, there's always going to be a block, right? There's always going to be something standing in the way of that connection.
That is a brilliant point. And I mean, I'm always teaching self-love. That's like the ABCs of our practice and our message. But you just brought up a nuance that's so important. It's like, if you're not loving yourself, then it's hard to accept the universal love of the universe because you don't feel like you deserve it simply because it's not in rhythm with how you operate inside of you. So to be, to enjoy heaven, you've got to love yourself.
Yeah, and that is such a theme right now. I bring these energetic themes in every month. And one of them that we're working with right now is this idea of the father wound. And
I saw that. Tell
yeah,
us
and
more.
how that wound has been like passed down through the generations and how it has this kind of connection to war energy on this planet. But when I work with that in people's energy field, so I'm working with their 12 chakra column, right?
Okay.
And when I start working in their above space, those chakras beyond the body, what I start to find are all of the stories that they have with their biological father. Whether they knew him or not, whatever his role was in their life, I start to find all of those energies. And that story, right, whatever happened, whatever traumas are there, is creating separation between them and divine masculine source, right? And the same thing is with the mother wound as well. When a big part of my work is in channeling divine Mother Earth and bringing her wisdom forward and bringing her energy forward and helping the feminine to rise on this collective in all bodies, not just female bodies. And when I look at our connection to the earth, oftentimes what I see is everything that they dealt with, that individual dealt with their mother, is also blocking their connection to the earth. And so even just simple as like, hey, I need to get grounded. And people say, you need to be grounded, right? You need to be grounded. That's a basic of spirituality. Well, yes, I can intend that. But if I have a wound with my mother that's transferring over to my connection with Mother Earth, I'm not going to feel worthy of releasing any energy to Mother Earth for her to transmute. And I'm not going to feel worthy of receiving any energy back from her. And so in a lot of my work, it's about working on those two poles and working through those wounds with the mother and father so that the inner child can be healed so that we can actually receive from the universal mother and father energies.
That's a brilliant perspective that you brought there, because so your daddy issues keep you from God, your mommy issues keep you from earth. and as part of the block that we're having. And it's funny because like I have daddy issues and I forgive him, but still it hurts. It's like even there's still that wound, you're still, and then your ego wants to hold them accountable, which isn't our job. Like it's really tough. And so you're saying here in November, which is fascinating because November for astrological, the theme of November was fortifying the new shield and coming into our power was basically what I saw astrologically, and sort of making those cuts. And what you're suggesting the theme of this month is coming into our power means we are facing our father wounds.
Yeah. That was one of the themes. There were two others. One was just trust the process and kind of getting out of this micromanaging of the universe kind of thing, like finding our power and trust and surrender. And then the theme that I did in my healing circle this month was actually called resting in desire. And it was about being in this very feminine magnetic energy that we all carry, that actually, when we're in that being space and we're not over efforting and we're not overdoing, actually draws things to us that we need so that we can be in our power, so that we can have the life that we want. And so when my themes come in, there's always like 3 or 4 of them. There's one that stands out that we need to work on in Healing Circle, but they all relate to the energies of the month and they normally relate to one another. And then when I see the astrology come out, because I always look at that after, there's always something that aligns with what's going on in the astrology too.
Yeah, when I was looking at your YouTube channel, I was like, that's why I asked, are you into astrology? Because it seems like you're definitely tuned into what I'm perceiving. Of course, we're both Tauruses, so maybe we look at things a little similarly, but I'm also from Sirius, so you're like a sister.
Yeah. Same lineage, soul lineage.
Same soul lineage, yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, now that we're on the topic of Sirius, what do you know about the Syrians and how they have been a part of our society and Earth?
Yeah, let me just let that energy pass through. I smile really big when they come in because I love them so much. And I just immediately feel family, and I feel them kind of cheering us on for this time that we're moving through on the planet. Because, you know, every extraterrestrial group, every star brother and sister in the galaxy, in the universe, right, beyond our universe, is looking at what's happening here. Because we are such a melting pot on Earth of so many different star brothers and sisters that have come together with so many different backgrounds. And so I see the Syrians as they have a lot of unfinished business, right? Like, I know I was here with the Syrians in Egypt and we didn't finish what we started, right? And so I had to work through all my karmic stuff and all my guilt and shame around that. It's been part of my healing process. So I think that the Syrians are here now to help us to figure out how to co-create amongst the masculine and feminine, and how to find balance internally within our own masculine and feminine energies, so that we can be in sacred partnership more and more, so that we can co-create together. I think that's what they're helping us with. And then, like, the Pleiadians as another example, right? When they come in, I feel like they're kind of like our cousins. Like, they're the ones who just went through, or, you know, I should say just, but it's been a little while, but they are closest to having just gone through what we're going through, right? In a slightly different way. But the Syrians are holding a bit of a higher perspective. And I really feel like when they came to the planet the first time, when I came to the planet the first time with them, like, we were just trying to get things started, but we kind of did a little bit more harm than good. And so I think they're working through some of their karma with us as they're trying to help us bring harmony back on this planet, especially within our masculine and feminine energies.
Interesting. So, I mean, I had heard of, well, I have memory of coming here at the Atlantis period, or from my understanding, the Syrians were that they were really giving us the family unit for the first time, from what I understand. Are they allegedly the long elongated head vision we see of Egypt, or is that just a myth? Yeah, I saw you go. Meh.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I definitely feel like there were a lot of star brothers and sisters involved in what happened in Egypt and the seeding of consciousness here and all the things. And, you know, like, there were a lot of mistakes made, right? And when I tune into these different star families, I have a class called I Am Starseed, and I go through all the galactic history of our planet.
Wow.
And I do a lot of work with people on kind of clearing out whatever triggers they have around these different star brothers and sisters, because there were a lot of mistakes made, I think, as we seeded consciousness on this planet. And I really think now it's about, like, how do we figure out how to navigate through all that trauma and heal that? And they're really here trying to help kind of hold this earth plane sacred so that we can finish this work. And, you know, they're very loving. I'm sure that people have had all kinds of experiences with star brothers and sisters over the years. Some maybe not so good, because there have been so many things that have happened in conjunction with our planet. But now I feel like they're kind of stepping back and really just trying to support us and kind of gently nudging us along when we get a little off course, but really trying to allow us to have the free will that we came here to have in this grand experiment of humanity.
Brilliant. And I see that too. It seems like the Syrians are sort of like our step parents, like they adopted us.
Yeah.
And Pleiadians are like our hot cousin. Like you said. They're always like beautiful eyes and so beautiful. It's like,
that
didn't come down my DNA strain, but okay.
Yeah, and I must have had some kind of history with the Pleiadians, because when they first came in, I was like, oh, I don't want to channel you. And I had to work through some galactic war trauma that I had with them, you know, from another lifetime. And, you know, I think a lot of us have those memories built in our DNA. And I think that's why we're so obsessed with sci-fi movies and those kinds of things, right? But, you know, I think a lot of the things that are playing out on this planet are echoes of that. And I talk about that in my course because, you know, even just war energy as an example, so much of the conflict that we have that's religion based on this planet, I think has roots in being different star system factions, you know.
Interesting.
That's my belief anyways.
That's fascinating. So it's not so much Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism. It's more like Syrian, you know, Anunnaki, all these different. So they'd all kind of came from these different. And I'm sure each species or alien species feels like, no, this is what God is. No, this is what God is. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Everyone
Yeah. So
arguing.
we're like a big melting pot on this planet. And what I find when I teach people that and they can kind of zoom out, it actually brings in neutrality, because part
Yes.
of what we're trying to do is not get mired in the conflict and get in the fear place, right? Like we're all kind of like this in our nervous systems, and we need to relax so that these new frequencies can come in. But if we're just focused on the story of what's happening in the now, and we don't have that broader perspective of what our real history is, which I think is doing a huge disservice to us, then we don't have that neutrality available to us, because we only have the stories that we've been given in our history books. Right. And, I think one of the reasons why the school system really has to change, when I talk to the hybrid children that are wanting to come onto this planet in future generations that are going to be more extraterrestrial and less human, they're like, man, your school system sucks. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to come onto this planet and just learn how to memorize things. We want to understand like how to be a human, how to relate, how to do all of these things. And so I think our school system is shifting as well after the virus, also because of that.
Mm-hmm. It kind of revealed, actually exposed, have been going on for a long time in schools. Do
Yeah.
you believe that there is a parasitical sort of species out there that is trying to get us to fight and eating all of our fear and anger and all that stuff? Like that's a modern, tale on the internet these days.
I mean, I suspect that things like that exist.
Okay.
When I tune into that energy, I mean, I can look at media as being an energy like that. I can look at consumerism as being an energy like that. I can look at certain like really fanatical religions as being an energy. Like I think there's a lot of versions of that energy on this planet. Do I think that there's somebody in the background pulling all the strings and making all of that happen? I don't know if I believe that that's still happening to that degree. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that there are pieces and parts, but I really think we've passed through some major shifts in the last few years where like that level of control is dwindling. And that's why some of these systems are falling apart, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, I mean, I think there's plenty of energies that feed on things that are not good for us, right? That are
Yeah.
not okay. And that's disembodied spirits and all kinds of things. But I don't like to get people to focus on that, because I feel like they're kind of missing the point of what's happening on this planet, right? That energy is always going to be here to some degree. I don't think when we get to 5D, there's not going to be any death or darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think the way we relate to it and the way we work with it and the way we understand it within ourselves is going to shift. And then how we relate to it externally is going to shift, right?
Yeah.
And, I know that there's belief that like some people believe that there's people controlling us and all these things are happening. And I'm sure that's happened in our history. But I think that that's discounting the amount of power we have as individuals when we do our inner work and we step into what we want our truth to be on this planet. And I don't like to be a proponent of the negative, right? Because I think there's plenty of people doing that. And so I'm always trying to get people to see the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To me, it seems like there's spiritual bacteria. Yeah. If you put your hands in dog poop, you're going to be full of bacteria, but just wash your hands and move on. Like,
Yeah.
why do we have to be obsessed and post about it, kind of thing. But I think by obsessing on it, we're feeding it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a very sticky energy, fear and conspiracy theories and all of that. Like it was, I think, lifeblood for some people during the virus, because
Yep.
we had so much misinformation and so many people not really sharing information. And I think a lot of that has shifted afterwards, like there's so much more information out there, but it's kind of like turning your head and looking at the car crash, right? Like it's a very sticky energy. And I tell people, if you can look at that stuff with neutrality and you don't get sucked into it, go for it, right? But if you're somebody who's highly sensitive and you're turning towards that and you get sucked into it and you feel your vibration dropping and then all of a sudden you're afraid that the boogeyman's going to come get you, that's probably not the best use of your time. And it doesn't mean that you can't stay informed, right? But it's just how much can you turn into looking at those things? And, I don't want to feed into that energy. That's not what I came here to do. I have a mission and I am on mission, and it is not that. Right. And if there are people that can live in that and look at that murkiness and work with it, that's their mission. That's great. More power to them, but that's not my mission in this life.
It's not my mission either. And I think to some degree it's part of being that 3D junkie, because you're getting yourself scared, like you're and you're getting adrenaline junkie from being afraid, and you're riding the high of anger and riding the high of how dare you. And I don't think we realize, like, there's a blood work chemical addiction to some of those emotional things. And, we think we're getting worked up and angry, but really we're riding a 3D high instead of finding our 5D high, because we all want to get high. Right. But I think there's a spiritual high. There's a better, higher way to go that's pure and more natural to our higher states.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have gotten addicted to trauma and addicted to drama on this planet, and our nervous systems are so attuned to it. Yeah. And there are people that are making a lot of money off of that and counting on that. And, I don't fault them for it. It is what it is, right? Live and let live. But I'm going to be more conscious about what I feed into and how I articulate it and what I talk about. And so even when I talk about fearful things, things that I see that are happening that might be scary, the way I bring it in and how I hold that space for people is really, really important to me.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And some people say we're cold and detached, but I think a lot of times it's neutrality. It's like, been there, done that for 1,000 years. Boring. Yeah.
I think detachment is, like, I think that's akin to disassociation. And I don't think that that's what's happening, as long as we're really looking and we're inquiring. Like, we have to run everything through our personal filter. I tell people all the time, if I'm channeling something and something's coming in, it's got to go through your truth filter first, right? Like, it's, if you don't align with it, then leave it there, right? But I think we all have to get better attuned to our bodies. And this year especially has been so much about the body. Like, when the theme came in for 2023, it was all about embodiment and taking all these spiritual experiences and bringing them into these lower chakras, which I feel like we really don't know how to embody in this lifetime, and bringing that all the way down, because we actually came here to be in a body, right? We came here to feel and to be in this body and feel. And so I think that's been a lot of the work that we've been doing in 2023. And that's involved a lot of nervous system healing for a lot of people and a lot of trauma healing.
Mm-hmm. With Saturn and Pisces, we're cutting karmic cords. And so it leaves the body we were the embodiment of our fear, the embodiment of our karma. You cut away from those spiritual essences, the body has to, re-manifest or integrate, basically being the free of that energy. So I think in Chiron and Aries, I think also too, is the healing of the ego, which is certain attachments that we've had. Yeah. So I've certainly noticed the body ride this year more than any year. It's been pretty intense.
Yeah, it has been really intense. And I think, we're also learning at the same time how to care for it, but not how to over-identify with it, which is a really fine balance, because a lot of spiritual practices are about getting out of the body. And I'm always like, no, we got to get in the body first. Even if you want better sleep, you got to get in your body. Right. And that's so not taught in a lot of spiritual practices. It's normally the opposite. And I think it behooves us to really own this vessel so that we can, take up a little bit more space and be more in our power while we're embodied.
And ascension is you take the body with you. You don't discard it. You take it with you. You turn into a light body, right? That's the next level. So make friends with it. You're going to heal it and take it with you.
Right. And, a lot of the work I do with individual clients is taking all four of their etheric bodies. So the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional, right? Which also aligns with masculine and feminine energy, and getting them all to harmonize. Because when we have like a past life experience that we're holding in the energy body, it often shows up in the physical body as a pain or a recurring illness, right? So we're constantly working through all four of those planes at once and healing things, even when we're focused on one plane. So I might be focused on grief, but where is that grief coming from? And how does it show up in my body? And how does the stories anchor into my mind about this grief? So we have to look at ourselves as holistic beings when we're healing. And I think that's why the medical system is shifting, because we haven't looked at the holistic being. And I think even in spirituality, we've had some compartmentalized energy where we're working just on the energy body, or we're working just on the emotional body, and we're not touching the physical and mental body at all. Right. So it's really about blending all those things together and doing that integrative work across all of the etheric planes.
I completely agree. Brilliant, brilliant analysis there. So let's go back to the 12 dimensional beings. Tell us about your friends. Is this a group that
Yeah,
your same characters showing up every time? Like
they're kind of like a collective. So they came in, I was in Mount Shasta in
Mm,
2018. And fun story, in astrocartography, in my astrocartography, Mount Shasta is like my power place. And I
wow.
didn't know this until after. But I was there on a retreat and I was doing some healing work on my friend at the time. And I was working in her energy field and I got to the edge of her energy field. So about 6 feet out, in diameter from the body. So 3 feet on each side. And I kept hearing 12, 12, 12, 12. And I was working in what they were showing me as her ego layer. And I had been through training at the Boulder Psychic Institute. I had an energy healing modality that I was taught. And when this came in, it was like something inside of me like burst open. And all of a sudden, all I could see was 12s everywhere. And they started talking with me about the 12 chakra system and how important it is to open and work with all 12 chakras because that's all 12 dimensions. Because we have every dimension is embodied. So our first chakra is first dimension, our second chakra is second dimension. And so when we work with that whole 12 chakra column, we start to open ourselves up to those higher dimensional planes where we can have those experiences of unity consciousness and knowing that we are God, right? Knowing that we are a creator, knowing that we're not separate from source. And so when I was working in her field, I started getting all of these downloads about how important that was and how I was going to start working with unity consciousness. And so when I came home, that's when my 12th dimensional healing modality came in. And I was already doing healing sessions. I have been doing healing sessions kind of off and on since 2012. And in 2018, I went full time in with Zen Within Academy and was seeing all kinds of clients. And 12D healing came in, and it was like my whole healing process shifted. And the creator beings, as I call them, that's their other title, right? They are really here to help me embody my creatorship and my power so that I can help other people do that too, right? And they keep reminding people when I'm channeling or doing online healing circles that we are individual creators, right? We are more powerful than we know. And so that's kind of like the drum that I'm always banging when they come in, and they help me to remember that truth whenever I'm working through my stuff too. And so
Mhm.
they're kind of like my constant companions now. And I call on them. And sometimes they're further away from me because I'm working in the denser vibrations myself, right? And so it's kind of like a radio station. When you're tuned into a higher frequency, it's easier for them to come in and help you and you to feel it. But they're
Okay.
always helping, right? And so when I work with the creator beings in a session or in a healing circle or in a class, they kind of come in and they look like really tall columns of light, like 10, 12-foot tall columns of light. And they come in and surround the people that I'm working with to bring in this frequency of unity consciousness, which basically takes anything that's in their field that's trauma or negative or, dense, and it transmutes it back to unity consciousness and love.
I've heard those tall pillars are the angels. Are the angels on the 12th dimension, or is
I would say they're pretty close in dimensional plane. Like I think the ascended masters and the creator beings that I channel and the angels, I think they're kind of all in the same collective, right? And so even when I ask, like, okay, who's in this 12th dimensional collective? Because, people are like, I need to know who's here. And they're like, well, all the people that you would think, Katie, like Buddha is there, Yeshua is there, the angels are there. There are 12th dimensional beings of every star race that are there, right? If we think about it, like it's a dimensional plane, it's not just like an individual, right? It's a collective. And so like when I channel the whales and the dolphins, they're also a collective, right? They're individuals, right? You can see a
Mhm.
single dolphin and connect with a single dolphin, but they're a collective consciousness. And it's the same with most of the groups that I channel, because once you get to a certain frequency, one of the beauties of it is that there's no more war and things because you're so connected to each other in that collective that you can't imagine harming somebody because you're harming yourself and you feel it, right? So
Right.
the higher in frequency and the higher in dimension we go, the more the collective consciousness becomes a thing. And they can choose to be individuals, but they don't have to be.
Yes. Okay. That makes total sense. Well, I'd imagine it's when they express, it's like they're focused on their own consciousness. When they focus on their individuality, they separate. When they focus on their commonality, they become closer. It's like the focus of a lens almost, really. It's not an identity per se.
Right. Right.
Well, this is all fascinating. I want to get a chance to talk about what you've created here on Earth from Sirius. First, tell us what the Zen Within Academy is.
Yeah, so that started in 2017 as a way for me to do healing sessions and just bring through teachings that I felt were coming, but I didn't really know what they were yet. And so I started teaching classes, and my husband and I do workshops and retreats all over the world. We're going to Peru and Mount Shasta in 2024, taking people there.
Me too.
Stuff in North Carolina as well. And so we offer a lot of different things, but my goal is to have a community where people can come together and be seen as they are in this spiritual journey, because I think it can be really lonely. And so that's why I created Zen Within Academy. And then last year in the summer, or actually in the spring, I had an experience with Mother Earth where I was outside in the middle of the night. She woke me up, and all of this light started coming into my body that were codes. And she said, I'm giving you all these new earth codes and you have to disseminate it. And I was like, okay. I don't really know what that means, but I'm on board. And a couple of months later, that's when I founded the New Earth Now School. And I went back and forth of like, am I just going to be doing New Earth Now? But everybody knew Zen Within Academy. And it just felt like I needed to create this separate container for these New Earth teachings that were coming in. And so I did that year-long program, still underneath the Zen Within Academy umbrella, but within the New Earth Now School. And the foundations course came in. And then in 2024, it's going to be called New Earth Relating. And we're going to work on relationships to self, to earth, to source, to each other. We're going to talk about partnerships and those kinds of relationships, all kinds of relationship work. And then within Zen Within Academy, I do a monthly healing circle tied to the energies and one-on-one sessions as well.
Wow. And there's a lot of amazing courses that you have as well, like the Ascended Masters course. I mean, just walk us through a little bit of some of the amazing stuff you have.
Sure. So I have my 12D healing program, which is a level 1 and level 2. And that's a self-paced program where you can kind of learn some of the basic tools that I use in my 12th dimensional healing. And I call that like the energetic hygiene for empaths and sensitives. So we teach all kinds of things in there about relationships and just keeping your energy field clear. I teach you about all 12 chakras. And it's really just kind of like a basic toolkit of working in the energy world. And then all my other courses are kind of focused around specific pillars. So I have I Am Starseed, which is about our starseed origins and like calling on our star brothers and sisters and making those connections. I have the Ascended Masters class, which is kind of connecting with them. I have an ancestral class called Channeling the Ancestors, where we're doing that ancestral healing work. And I have one of my favorites. It's not on my homepage, but if you go to the courses section, it's called Alchemizing Duality. And it's about balancing the masculine and feminine in your being and bringing unity within. And so that's a course that's going to help you to work through some of your stories around your masculine energy and your feminine energy, because we all have both, and work through some of those mother and father wounds as well. So that's kind of the highlight. I also have Creation Consciousness, which I channeled a couple of years ago, which is about manifestation, because everybody loves that topic. And I teach it from a slightly different angle in getting into your creatorship and kind of working with your lower chakras to do that, and kind of working with your whole chakra column to align with creation consciousness.
Wow, that feels like a full palette. How does it actually function? Is you go through a series of videos that you learn?
Yeah, I have a portal, and it's all, channeled work that's, that has been live channeled, and there's handouts and PDFs. And so you can move as fast as or as slow as you want. And then I always have some sort of live thing going on too. So I always tell people, like, if you don't know where to start, like book a healing session or come to my online healing circle, because that's going to really give you an insight into how I work and what I teach and those kinds of things. And the nice thing about the healing circle is it's every month at the same time. And so you're always getting support with whatever the big difficult energy theme is that month. So it's kind of like a ER kit for empaths, right? Like they can
Nice.
through things and be in a community. We have like 50 or 60 people joining that already. So, and then a lot of people getting the recording. And then I do one-on-one sessions. Takes a little while to get on my calendar. I think I'm booking into March right now, but I also have a waiting list. So if you want some one-on-one trauma work, or really there's something big that you want to dive into, I have that too.
Wow, it's a one-stop serious shop.
Yeah, I
enlightenment
have
essentials.
a lot of what is it? I'm a manifesting generator in human design, so I'm always doing something new and exploring something, and that keeps me happy. So
Yeah, I understand that passion. And we put up something on the screen, and I didn't quite see it. It's some sort of a free something in December. What is
yeah,
that?
so I basically am inviting anybody that's a Serious Joy subscriber, anybody that's watching this that hasn't ever joined any of my healing circles, to join my December healing circle for free.
Oh,
So
that's so nice of you.
yeah, so anybody, and you can even just catch the recording. It's going to be on December 13th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And my guides were nice enough to bring in the title ahead of time. I normally don't get the stuff until the end of the month, but we're actually going to be working on activating new timelines. And I think
Ooh,
that really aligns with what you were talking about that's coming in.
yes, it does. That's
Yeah,
exactly
so
what I see for December is the new story, the new timeline.
yeah.
And story is timeline for those who haven't put those two together.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, just different
Yeah,
language. Yeah, so
totally.
that's what we're going to be working on in December.
Wow, that's brilliant. And I'd say, yes, I think that's fully on path with what the planets say is needing to happen. So I really have enjoyed your energy. I think we could do this again sometime, maybe next year if you'd like to come back.
I would love that.
Just because you seem to be such a great ambassador of these higher realms, and you're so grounded. It could be my Taurus, preference. What's your husband's astrology sign?
He's a Virgo, so
Okay.
he's an earth energy too, and he's a shamanic practitioner. He trained with the Curos in the Andes Mountains. So I always used to
Wow.
say that he's the earth energy and I'm the stars, but now we're kind of embodying both of us. So, we're evolving as a couple. We've been together for almost 20 years now. So
Wow, congratulations.
thank you.
That is a huge feat on this planet in this lifetime. That's great. I'm sure y'all have an interesting cosmic love story you can share sometime.
Oh yeah, I can talk all day about sacred partnership and all those things and relationships. It's a big path on this planet for us. So
It really is. Well, Katie Sutton, you are wonderful. Thank you for being a part of this show. Please stay backstage after so we can gab for a couple of minutes and not run back to Sirius. And we'll hopefully see you soon. Everyone, check out her website. We've put it up on the screen a few times, but just say it out loud for us one time.
yeah, so the free offer for them is zenwithinacademy.com/serious joy.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how it works out. I'll have to pop in. I might just pop in there and see what
Yeah.
it's about. Looks
Come join
exciting.
us.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Katie. Everyone's loved you. Ciao for now. Well, that was great. You know what? I was watching the time on that one because I was enjoying the conversation so much and there was so much to talk about. We could have gone clearly all night long. I love the Taurus energy. I love the Sirius connection. I didn't realize she was from Sirius until this interview. So now I have a new cousin from outer space here on the planet. Thank you for coming, Katie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christopher. It was wonderful. I enjoyed it.
And to wrap up our show here real quickly, Serious Joy, we are here to help you find your truth and purpose right now. We're doing a special right now called the 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. We're moving into the 4th chapter of this through December. It's for the next 12 days, starting on this Wednesday. We're going to cover the houses, the aspects, the transits, proprietary purpose calculator, and cipher. Like, really, this is a way of understanding your astrology chart from the ground up. It's one step a day. It's one planet a day. And it's not too late to sign up and actually try it because you can work at your own pace. I really recommend you do a program like this just because we're at this transition time. As Katie had mentioned, this is the moment next year to really start moving forward and knowing yourself, knowing what your patterns are, knowing your karma. That gives you the power to step away and make that change. So if you're not familiar, we're at seriousjoy.com. It's just $3.99 if you're a first-time subscriber for the first month, and it's a ton of content, well worth the try. We also have a new moon prep video or a prep video coming up here for our next lunar event. Jo Zamet is our lunar ceremony expert, and she gives us preparation videos and lunar videos to really create some beautiful aesthetics. She calls it artifacts. We're helping you to teach you to follow your intuition and your heart, combining all the states of awareness in practical artifacts and creation. It's sort of like a Zen Martha Stewart meets spirituality meets ascension. And she's a delight herself. She's from Australia. That's one of the many features at Serious Joy. Just click on Lunar Ceremonies on the main page, what we call the lobby. Last week, we had an amazing self-study hall with the title of Superstelliums with Robbie Hunt. If you have 3 or more planets conjoined in one spot of your chart, there's a way to decode that, what we call a superstellium. Robbie did a class with 3 of our subscribers. That's live right now. Just click on Self-Study Hall in the main lobby. This week, we are doing a live town hall meeting on Wednesday, November 22nd at 1 p.m., 10 a.m. Pacific. This is going to be a Zoom meeting where everyone is allowed to attend the meeting, ask questions. We're going to specifically be helping people in 40 Days of My Truth and Purpose, but we're also going to answer any question under the sun. This is a great time to get together, and you could call it like a little bit of a gratitude Thanksgiving meeting as well. So, how many astrology services out there actually bring everyone together in a live meeting once a month? Answer, I know no one but Serious Joy. Now, frankly, the most wonderful thing you can do for us is to share us with your friends and family. We've always grown organically. Sharing is caring. Just share us. Share this show, share our services, have us follow us on social media. It's time to find our family of light. And as Katie and I talked about, this is time to come together now. She's saying the same things that we've said. It's time to unite the light. It's time to come together. So let's bring our family together and let's meet up once a week on Friday nights. I'm loving our all of our chat and our people who are sharing their stories too. I've been watching you. If you want to donate, we do humbly accept donations. It's at paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. If you want to rub elbows with our family, we have a Facebook group. It's at seriousjoy.club. We currently have a human design study group right now. So if you want to study your human design and get to know it deeper, we have some phenomenal volunteers who are teaching the goodness of their heart. You find out at seriousjoy.club on how to access that. To follow us on social media, go to our linked tree, seriousjoy.social. And many people would rather listen instead of watch, and I honor that. We're available on Spotify, on Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts, so you can hear us there if you prefer it there. All right, friends, that's all we have for this phenomenal show. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks to our producer, Noah Way. Thanks to our director, Sarah Lyman, my business partner, Eben Freeman. Thank you to the entire Serious Joy staff and all of our affiliates and our associations. We love you. We're a family of light. We'll be back next week on Black Friday, but we're going to bring the light to that black. Until then, I love you. Live, love, be.
It's Serious Joy, Joy, Joy.